Hi guys, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey everybody, just before we start, we're actually going to have a really amazing interview today. But just before we start, we wanted to let you know because we had not confirmed a book for the book club thingy that we do. And the next book we are going to be doing is Profit First. And we're going to be recording it at the mid amount of February, like February 12th. So it'll probably be out like later February, like maybe 18th and on. So keep your eyes out for that. But also, if you wanted to read it and, listen to us discuss about it, you're more than welcome to. Okay, here we go. Well, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Hello. We have a guest.
hi, friends.
If you
Welcome
don't know
back.
that, that's Deanna. Hi, fans. Deanna, would you like to tell the people about yourself, even though you've been on the podcast before? But
Yeah. So I am Deanna Poelsma. I'm a ceramic jewelry artist based out of Indianapolis. Was on the podcast in 2023, so it's been a little bit.
Episode 208. I just looked it up.
Yeah. But yeah, have been doing ceramics a long time. Have a background in arts administration. Used to do grant making for a living, and now I make art full time.
huzzah!
Yeah, we talked a lot about your background in the art space, working for organizations, and then the title of it was optimizing your show application. So we talked a lot about applying to shows and like how that jury process goes and some of that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that, definitely go back
Yeah.
to episode 208. We did that in Berea when we were at
Mm-hmm.
the Airbnb while we were selling at the craft fair there. So
Yeah. This is so much better with. I've never actually seen the podcast with a video. It's a night and day difference. It's great.
we don't really share the video, but it's
Okay.
I
pretty
did notice
pretty
that you look
casual.
pretty nice tonight.
Well, because I knew you talk about people can view it, and I was like, oh, I might as well actually like put some earrings on.
Oh, they can't view it anymore.
I
Oh,
mean, we
that's
used
bummer.
to we used to post it to YouTube, but I think we got like nearly zero views, so I just stopped doing it.
Got
But
it.
but the thing is the audio still goes into YouTube because like Google Podcasts is no longer a thing. YouTube is under Google, so like the podcast audio gets posted to YouTube now,
I didn't
but
know that.
it's just our like artwork on the video part.
Hmm.
So
That's cool.
Yeah. And I always look like garbage when we're on the podcast, so it's usually like fourth day, no shower. Like, yeah.
But we get all the entertainment from you and Lloyd. That's what makes it.
Dude, Lloyd was such a fucking bitch this morning. He woke me up at like 5 a.m. because it's really windy. I'm in California right now, Southern California, not near the fires. And he was like, really, it's really windy. And he comes and he's like, and he's like meowing like nobody's business. I knew he had to pee. and he wouldn't. He like walked into the litter box and was like, never mind, bitches. And like walked right out. And I was like, you're gonna have to go outside. I'm not fucking going outside with you. I'm not gonna hold your hand. Like, you figure it out, bro.
Hmm. Do you have the door locked and everything?
No, I mean the door was open. He could go
Oh,
outside.
he just
He
you
was
just
doing.
wanted company.
no, he was scared shitless of the wind.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Mm.
but such is life.
So does that mean the air quality is a little iffy there with that much wind?
So I asked Andrea from Aardvark before I came down here because I knew I was coming down, and she said because Santa Ana's like near the water and it like blows up like it's a northern wind, it actually there's like no wind, no bad air quality down here. So
Mm. Okay.
yeah, yeah, good to go, good to go.
Nice.
Anna, how was your day? Tell us about what you're doing right now.
Me, I am doing, thanks to you guys, I think it was the Donovan podcast
Will, yeah.
505 days. Aletha did it last week, and I was following along, and I was like, I should probably do that. I've got a lot of commitments coming up and not a whole lot of time to make. So we're doing it. 505 days doing my studs and small dangles because I can't do my big stuff in that amount of time. But I'm on today's day 3. We're not even halfway there, but we'll finish it after the podcast. It'll be fine.
It's fine. I am trying to convince Deanna to tumble her stuff, so that's a goal for today.
When you come here, I will try it out because I'm not opposed to trying it. I'm just like, I don't want to buy one and then not like it and then can't return it. So
it's Harbor Freight. You can return anything.
Oh, Harbor Freight? I didn't know that. I thought you got it from Rio.
No.
They're probably pretty reasonable at Harbor Freight, right? Like
Yeah.
$30 or something.
Yeah, they
Well,
won't
the single ones used to be $30, but I think they only sell a double one now. But still, they're fucking boss. Yeah.
What shot
So
do
what
you
would you
use?
recommend
just
doing
use
it
clay
at
shot?
disc?
I cut up pieces of clay and fire them fully. And
Okay.
then just tumble them against themselves.
Okay.
Okay, well, we can get into that later.
Yeah.
Ryan, how was your day?
I'm doing good. I actually I'm kind of in my second batch of work of like the throwing challenge. So I started spoon rests and stuff yesterday. So
Oh, wait,
I'm not I'm not throwing 500 in 5 days. I'm just setting a goal to make the same form for, I think this time I'm going to do like 5 days. So I'm just going to make the same form for 5 days.
nice. How many are you trying to make each day?
I made 45 yesterday and I just finished them earlier today. So it doesn't have to be a specific quota every time, but I'm not going to be throwing anything new that's
Got it.
not that form.
Okay.
So last time I did it, I did 100 yarn bowls in a week. Technically, I mean, the week ended at 3 a.m. on Sunday, so like, I mean, it wasn't exactly a week, but pushed to get 100 done. And spoon rests should be pretty straightforward. So I think I have enough clay. I think I've got 3 5-gallon buckets of half-pound balls ready still. So like, I can start working my way through those.
And I tell you what, that was what I was thinking of when yesterday, second day working on this, I was like, God, I'm out of all the stuff that I need already. And I was like, I couldn't imagine having to wedge and weigh out all the, like, that would be soul sucking just to even get started.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to plan
Lisa,
ahead to make sure.
How is your back just not permanently stuck in a hunched over position after that? Like, she's like, oh, the massage gun was out every day. I'm like, that makes more sense.
You know what's funny is that when I was the one that started this whole debacle, this
Yeah.
like situation, because I used to do 707, and I
You
had
had like 52 a day till May or something like that.
I did do 52 a day till May, but that didn't last long. No, I was yeah, so I started it with 707, and at the time I had a pug mill. So like I never said that in the thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I never talked about having a pug mill to like help you with half the job.
That
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I feel like prepping the clay the whole week before is probably preferred over doing it during the week that you're actually supposed to be focusing on throwing, because throwing is its own exercise and prepping clay is exhausting. So
when you used to do that, Becca, did you just like throw them and cover them, or were you like throwing them, taking them off the bat, rounding them, letting them dry?
I would throw them, and oh yeah, it was 707. Like it was actually 2407 in reality. So I would.
What do you mean?
I would throw them. I would trim. Well, it depended on what I needed to do. I would throw them. The first day was 100, and then the second day was 200, and the third day either was 200 or 300. So I would like push them through. So
so you're touching more. You're touching more than 100, but you're starting 100 every day.
So I would trim. Yeah, I would like trim and handle all of them.
Kudos, man. No wonder
assume
No
that's
wonder
what
your body's failing. That's crazy.
I assume that's what Deanna or that's what Aletha did.
She did. Yeah. And that was why I messaged her. I was like, I don't know how you're doing. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Anyone who's like completely finishing them, like it's wild.
I would trim in the morning, handle in the midday, and then throw in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the opposite. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But
So Deanna, you're not going to make any like quote unquote blanks for like your fancier ones and put them in a damp box, or it's just the timing doesn't work out to keep the
No,
crisp
so
lines.
yeah, because like so I'm doing contracting work for two different arts organization nonprofits doing grant management. So a lot of my day is consumed with like emails, phone calls, because grant applications are open and reviewing stuff and answering questions. And on top of like trying to do my own show applications because it's season for that right now. So really, I just have like the last half of the day that I'm kind of doing it. So I'm just trying to focus on the small dangles and the studs. Because if I can get 500, 250 of each, like that'll at least get me through the big show that we have, Kentucky Crafted and then Indiana Artisan. And then I can focus on making more. Because I also, after the holidays, need to restock a lot of consignment shops. And while the necklaces and the big dangles sell, my money makers, like what pays my bills, are these small dangles and studs for me. So making sure I have lots of those ready that I can just go glaze and luster as I need instead of having to like do, as you know, the whole process start to finish. It takes 5 days, and having to like constantly switch is it definitely slows it down. So being able to do all of this at once, focusing on one shape at a time, just speeds it up so much. It's great.
and just think, if she tumbled things, she could do 500 in a day.
But not with the one, not for the small dangles. For the studs, for sure. No problem. Especially if I was doing like a full 8 hours. Like I'm over here trying to squeeze these in like 4 and 5 hours and like
You
take
could do it with the small dangles, easy peasy.
with the not knocking the wires out of them, you think?
Yes, it's kind of a test, right? You got to test how long it can do it against it, rubbing it against themselves, maybe. I don't know. I don't know anything about these wires, but or the little, yeah, how thin they are.
I have no, they won't do a goddamn thing. They won't move. I will. Okay, we will. I'm just setting little seeds. That's what I'm doing. I'm like planting seeds.
Well, you know how long it took me to fucking do the bubble wrap.
Oh my fucking God. The bubble wrap. Ryan J. Durbin.
I remember this.
Yes. Well, for anybody that doesn't, fucking Deanna bought a whole roll of fucking bubble wrap, and she has been cutting strips of bubble wrap for years. And I was like, Deanna, just buy the bags. Just buy the fucking bags. They're like 2 cents. Buy the bag. She was like, no, it's fine. I have this roll.
I still have the roll too. It's still in there, and I use it for my consignment shipping. But to be fair, I used to spend $30 a year on bubble wrap, and now it's $30 a month on bubble wrap. But the time spent cutting it is worth it. So
it's
fine.
I didn't know that was a thing, Becca. She's holding up a Ticket to Ride deluxe train set. Are they just different trains?
They're milk tankers.
You eat them. All right.
This is fucking wild. We're gonna have to get one of these, Ryan. Anyway, sorry, I just saw it on Jen's desk.
A safe way to probably test the tumble thing, if you're like already on board with the studs, you could throw the studs in there and just throw like 5 or 6 of the ones with the little hooks and just see if it hurts. Because I would not risk all of them. But
so for anyone who doesn't know, like when you roll out a slab and you're cutting, like they're almost like miniature cookie cutters, and you use saran wrap and it gets like a nice domed shape on the top and it's flat on the bottom. However, that bottom edge is like super sharp, so I use my metal rib to smooth it down, make it look nice, all the fun stuff. Have a nice flat surface on the back as well for adhering my stud backs too, so they're not falling off all the time. And what we're talking about is instead of taking all the extra time to clean off all the edges and make them look pretty, we're saying just cut them out, let them dry, fire them, bisque, put them in a tumbler, see how it goes, and if those edges aren't going to be sharp, and if it Because when Becca mentioned it to me, my concern was that it wouldn't keep that domed look on the top and the crisp flat edge on the bottom, that it would round it out entirely. And she's like, no, just do it less time. It'll be fine. So I'm all for trying it.
Yeah. And so if you haven't figured out by now, we're going to talk about jewelry today.
Make jewelry to be specific.
I texted Deanna because, like, obviously over the past year or two, jewelry has been getting really big in the ceramic world. And I texted Deanna and I was like, why haven't we done a podcast that was like just like the 101s of jewelry? And then I texted Ryan and was like, I'm doing this with Deanna. Would you like to join? Like, you don't have to because we already know what we're going to talk about because we talk about it all the time. If anybody was wondering, Deanna was the person that got me into jewelry, or was the one that was like, no, you got to do it. And so we're calling Deanna is the jewelry goddess. Yeah. But legit, no cap, like the young kids say.
My soul died a little bit.
Dead ass.
Dead ass. Deanna has the best ceramic jewelry you will ever find ever. So she is
Slay.
the Tower of Pisa. She is the Mona Lisa, okay? Like, nobody does it better. So okay, you can stop blushing. No, I'm kidding.
Right. I don't know what to say, but thank you. That's amazing.
Also this computer keeps beeping at me. I hope it doesn't come through, but maybe I can go sit over there.
I don't hear it. If it's like background noise, usually Zoom will block it out. So
Yeah.
I don't hear it.
It was great when you're trying to imitate Lloyd. It cut you off because it sounded like it was background noise. So
Yeah, exactly.
I saw you making faces and there was no noise.
Oh God, I hate Zoom.
It was great.
Hello, Shutterfly. Okay, so also before we get started, I have an announcement.
Ooh.
Well, you already know now, but gotta get my pillows. So as many of you've known, I've been looking for a job, very, very specific job as speedball, and we're still not totally counting all the chickens, but most of the chickens have hatched.
Nice. There's like 2 eggs left.
98% of the chickens have hatched.
Like sign on the dotted line.
So what are you doing? When is it starting? We need details, Becca.
Well, by the time this comes out, I think that I will have started. And I am that was a bad idea.
This might be out February 1st, so maybe right before, but
maybe the day before. So I am starting. No, it won't because we have to drop. Anyway, moving on. Okay. I was at ClayCon West. They called me. They want me to be a floater. A floater. So that means that I'll get trained on like all the stuff. Paper, ink, all the things, which sounds fun to me. I like knowing all the things. The only thing that I don't like about that is that I can't like hyper focus on one thing, which is kind of a bummer, but also who's complaining? And so, yep, the pay is shmeh, and I'm excited. I'm getting paid more than I'm paying myself, so hell yeah.
Yay, consistency. We love consistency.
And you've got benefits, so that's a big
And you get
plus.
benefits, but you still have to pay into the benefits.
You always have to pay into benefits, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, not if you make no money for the state.
No, honestly, it's not unusual. Like even like Brandon's job, they pay an absurd amount every paycheck, and that's a corporate job.
No, I know that. What I'm saying is that if you're poor enough, you don't pay for health.
Oh, yeah, like
I know, but what's the quality of care you get
You
by
know,
not having
bad?
In Indiana, it's fucking supremo.
It's wild. Okay, so to go dive down this rabbit hole real quick, my after like okay, last year brought in 80,000, wrote off enough that I made like 21. right? So I qualified for the tax credit for healthcare, and the plan that I was able to get with it is like 2,000 out of pocket deductible for the whole year. It's a $10 copay for the urgent care, and then zero for
That's
actual like
great.
network doctors. And I was like,
Yeah. And also, if you need a good network doctor, I have a bomb ass one in downtown Indy. Like, such a good doctor.
yeah,
I'm
so way.
so mad that I left Indy's healthcare system. So mad because Tennessee's garbage. So I'm excited. I'm hoping that North Carolina's medium. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'll get better than Washington and Indiana, but maybe. So,
I have high hopes for you. I'm excited
yeah.
for you. It'll be good.
So anyway,
De
oh, go on.
Deanna, do you have how does like vision and dental kind of stuff work?
Oh yeah. So vision and dental, I don't have through the plan. It's just health insurance. But I have an awesome doctor. They have a family plan for dentists. It's like no, not even 250 for the year, and includes two cleanings plus an x-ray, and then 25% off any procedures you need done after that.
That seems
So
very reasonable.
yeah,
Yeah, she's got a really good dentist.
it's a good one. It's a family owned guy, so he's great. And then vision, I found another. It took a lot of trial and error. Even when I had insurance through my old jobs, like I've been to I think 6 different vision people here in Indy. Finally found one that I like, and it's funny because Brandon and I both found them on accident at separate times, not knowing we each found the same one, and we both like them. So like, great, they are actually good, not just a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But it was also reasonably priced as far as like getting your exam. Buying the glasses at the doctor's office is how they pay their bills and make their money, so it's never cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as getting the exams done, it was good. So
I've heard that you can just go to Costco and get like a $99 exam.
you,
And then,
yeah, I mean, this was to go to this place is like $60 for an exam. If you're
Yeah.
getting
That's
contact lens, and it's more.
pretty
So
reasonable.
like, yeah, it's really reasonably. That's why I say they don't make their money off of it. They provide service. So, but since it's a locally owned place, why not support them?
yeah. Okay. Anyway, timeline. So, well, hi.
There's gonna be a lot of squirrels in this
Talk to you in a bit,
episode.
okay? Okay, bye. That was a 4-year-old. Anyway, now somebody's crying. Okay, so I am leaving here, California, on the 27th, and I'm headed to North Carolina, and I should be there on the 1st. I'm for sure hitting Dell's house and Cheryl's house. In the middle, I don't know how the middle's gonna work, and it's all Southern people. So I was hoping that it would go through Indianapolis and Cincinnati, but it's not gonna fly.
Very
But
far
Ryan, you did
north.
that drive. It's like 6 hours, right? When you had to go to Carolinas.
Yeah, but she's coming through like Tucson, Arizona, and Atlanta. So
No,
She's
no,
saying
no.
that
I'm saying to go
she
visit.
drive to
Yeah,
visit.
oh,
visit.
I think
Party.
I think it's about 6 maybe.
That's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Close,
So
as my mom would say, it's close enough. You can do it in a day.
Yeah, I mean it's technically only like a state over. You
yeah,
know,
Wait,
2
really?
states you might have to pass through West
Kentucky's
Virginia.
definitely not the longest state in the whole country, for sure.
Right.
I don't know why she's crying.
We can't hear her, so
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's background, so it's not.
Anyway, yeah, so it should start 4th or the 5th. I have to go in and meet them on the 3rd. I was considering, since I'm going to be a floater, I was considering getting floaties and wearing them into work the first day.
yes, please do. And please put on some scuba flip floppies, the ones you get from the Dollar Tree that just like wrap around the back of your foot. So you look like little duck feet.
I can't do that because you have to wear closed-toed shoes, but
But they're closed toed. You put them on over your shoes. It just wraps around it. It's the little plastic thing.
Do you still have Mango? The Flamingo?
I don't have Mango the Flamingo. I could get one though. I could
We
get
have one over on the shelf over there. You could
yeah.
just put your cup on the desk in a
Oh
little
my
floaty.
God, that's a good way to do it because I was thinking it would be funny to get like goggles and stuff and like while I'm there just like set my bag down and all of this stuff like spills out and be like, wait. You told me it was going to be a floater, so I brought my floaties. And
Well,
Megan was like,
set the tone.
and Megan was like, you better tell them that you're doing a bit before they like show you around because they're just gonna be really nice and be like, this bitch is wearing floaties. And also,
Shaking hands saying, I'm the new floater. Like,
yeah. Also, I've Denise found me stickers at the Tilted Kiln that are fruits with floaties on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Water bottle for sure.
Oh, it's going on the shirt, straight on the shirt first day. Um, Hi, I'm your new, and I was thinking about being like, they're like, well, we've hired you as a floater, and I'll be like, you mean a floater? I'm the floater. Anyway, I asked Megan if she thought I'd get fired if I wore floaties in the first day, and she said she doesn't think so. So,
get that
well,
signature before. You have like
yeah,
a digital signature that you like officially sign your.
I doubt it. It's probably they're old school.
I mean, you submit a W-9 and such.
Yeah. So anyway, yep, that should happen. That'll happen. Um, Huzzah! I have 34 hours of driving.
In the next week.
Well, after Monday, yeah.
I mean,
I
it'll be a week from when you take off to when you get there. So 34 hours in a week. Yeah.
which doesn't seem like a lot since there's a lot of hours in the week, but it is a lot.
I mean, because you mentioned how many people you're stopping at. Like, that's a lot of brain power that you're going to be exhausted when you get there.
I'm planning on stopping at Cheryl's and just taking the day and then leaving because it's only 4 hours from Cheryl's house and then leaving the next day. So like taking a full day before the last 4 hour stretch because at Cheryl's house I know that it's a safe space. I can let the cats out. I can like, not like
Mhm.
go find a place to park. Um and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm like maxed out at 4 to 5 hours of driving at one time. Like
Yeah.
that
Right.
much driving is a lot. Not a fan.
See, now I have a very steadfast tradition. First 3 hours, solid. Then I start getting sleepy. I stop, I nap. 2 hours of napping. And then I got 13 hours to go.
You
Good.
sound like my mom. That's what she does. After
Hmm.
2 hours, she's like, I got to pull over. She pulls into a gas station. That way, everyone can see her. If something happens, she's parked right up front, right in front of the door of the gas station. Naps. She's like 30-minute napper, and then she's on the road again.
Yeah, I used to nap at the same rest stop in Tacoma every single time I would go on a big trip. Yeah, let's get it out of the way. So, anyway, okay, let's start.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this is my plan. I think we're kind of doing like a jewelry 101 situation because we know that there are a lot of people that want to start jewelry that have a lot of questions about what they should buy, where they should buy it, how much it should cost. Um, we might not say how much it should cost because we don't know for sure, um, but we are here for your all of those questions because we've been there. So, how would you like to start? Do you want to start with like wires or something?
Well,
Or
let's start with like the most important, which is how heavy they should be. If you're because when you're making ceramic jewelry specifically,
yeah,
like that weight is what you know is the killer. If they're too heavy, someone can love your design all day long and they'll walk away from it.
yeah,
So they're in general, the rule of thumb is no more than 8 grams per pair. I personally like to keep them under 4 per pair.
okay,
So personal preference there. Some people can deal with heavier things, some people can't, but anything more than 8 grams per pair will cause stretching and damage to your earlobes and your piercing holes. So that's why that exists. So if you're thinking about getting into it, cut your stuff out, make your designs, and then get yourself a little like food scale thing.
Did you
that
finish them before when you started to know that that's like your starting point? Because you're working in wet clay, so like you don't know
yeah.
exactly how much it's gonna weigh.
Yeah, so like that rule of thumb comes from the metalsmithing community. So whether you're doing like stones or actual metal soldering and whatnot, but I found that with my pieces, when they're wet, like not even quite in the leather hard stage, that weight tends to hold true past all the firings because while they
Oh.
shrink and the water evaporates out, the added weight of the glaze and then the finding back onto it at the back end of it, it kind of equals out the weight of the water. So if you're making stuff on that front end, weigh it, make sure it's at that threshold, and you'll be fine.
To be uh
That number again was 8 grams on the max end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
8 grams, and you're more sticking to like 4 grams.
Mm-hmm.
and if
And that's
you
per
want,
pair. That's not individual earrings. That's per pair.
yeah. So, if you're like, I don't know how much 4 grams weighs and you don't have a scale that's that light, I just looked it up and it looks like a paper clip weighs about a gram. So if you have four paper clips, that's 4 grams. So you want to shoot for like two each or three, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Yeah, like it is interesting. Like some of the early jewelry that I got, uh, was pretty heavy. And like a lot of people don't mind the heavy. That's fine, but most people do. Like, there's a certain demographic of people that are like the bigger the better, and that's totally fine.
Right.
But, the lighter is definitely more accessible for most people.
For sure.
So like how thick do you make your slabs when you make your slabs?
Oh gosh, we had this conversation. So I did the workshop with Sapporo on jewelry making, and at the time I was like, inches. It's kind of hard because it's like in between the measurements. And one of the super sweet attendees sent me a little package afterwards, so now I can measure in millimeters because that's what it really needs to be. Um, Actually, I guess it's centimeters. Either way, it is the equivalent of half a centimeter or less as the thickness for me.
And if you don't know, that's fucking thin.
Yeah, so
You
it's
said
like
half a centimeter?
half a
You mean
centimeter.
millimeter?
So it's like a quarter to an eighth of an inch, roughly. It's so like depending on the
Okay.
designs to recap for people who don't know, like the designs that I'm making are flat, and I either carve in or sometimes do slip trailing on them, or sometimes it's more glazed work. So keeping them flat, that is the thickness of them in the wet stage before they've dried and gone through the bisque, because it'll thin out more from there. So like if you're doing, there's so much, that's the beauty of doing ceramic jewelry. You can do whatever your style is, whether it's functional or sculptural, if it's surface decoration, or if you want to do more sculptural, like dangly pieces, that's fine. You can make it whatever thickness you want. It's really about the weight. So like if you're like you were rolling coils, right, for your hoops back in the day, like
Yeah.
those were thicker than a couple centimeters, but because there was no clay in the middle of them, they were significant. Like you're you didn't even register on the scale. They're so light when you're making all the hoops. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of what you're making and how you're making it kind of dictates how thick or thin it'll be. But with ceramic, you want to keep it realistically on the thicker side so that it's durable. You don't want to make them paper thin, and then if I'm clumsy, right? So I bend over and my dangle earring knocks into a table, like I don't want it to break. So I make my stuff a little thicker so it's more durable, but also thin enough that it doesn't weight your ear down.
So let's say that I don't know why I typed that, but let's say that like Ryan just asked like on our little chatty chat, which we never used until now. What's
'Cause I didn't want to stray away. Like that's a more basic question between polymer and ceramic. Why would you do one over the other?
No, it's not
Mm,
Or is there a
necessarily,
difference
but
between them?
like polymer is a lot lighter than ceramic. So if you were making something much larger, you would like and you want it to still be light, maybe polymer is the best option for you. You know, also if you are this is a good tip too if you are like want to get into the jewelry making game and you don't have a slab roller. There is a ruler out on Amazon. If you just search on Google Westcott clear ruler, Wescot. That ruler, it's just like, it's not the one with the pink lines. It's just a regular fucking ruler. Like it's an acrylic like Westcott ruler, and it's $1.49 on Amazon. And that ruler is the perfect thickness for slabs for jewelry. So if you buy one, you can cut it in half. You can snap it in half and use that as a rolling guide for the thickness of how thick you want your clay to be. That's a really good thickness, just so you know. That's a hot tip. But also I have a link to it, so you can text me and ask me for the link, and I have a link. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I was the one that made the price go up because it used to be 55 cents. And
I
now
thought
it's
that was an Amazon deal day kind of deal.
no,
No, she went around and had like 30 some odd people buy it and give it to her because they limited the deal to one per person.
no, three per person, three per
Oh, was
person.
it three per
And I
person?
had like 20 of my friends buy three rulers for $1.50. And you even bought rulers.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you did. And then ship them to my parents' house or my house or somewhere. I had so many rulers. And
You got
it
them
was
for the
the
workshop so
best.
you could share
Yeah,
them
it was
with
for
people.
workshops. And it was the best scam I've ever unintentionally done. Because I was like, could you buy me these rulers? I can Venmo you $1.50. And everybody's like, no. Like, don't Venmo me $1.50. And so I got like 30 rulers for nothing. Like, I
Awesome.
mean, I originally paid $1.50 for the first three. But anyway, um, cool.
We were
Uh,
talking about polymer clay. One more thing I wanted to throw at like polymer clay versus regular clay if you're just trying to get into it and you want to play around with both. Polymer clay. So a little more background. I did sculpt. I hate making functional stuff. I know how to. I don't like to. I did sculptural pieces for a long time. And when I wanted to do this, I was like, my car won't really fit all these sculptures, and who's going to buy them at shows when they're this price? So what can I do? And I was like, I love jewelry, had a background in jewelry from college, and wanted to do it. So I actually started down the polymer clay route, and I hate working with polymer clay because it doesn't act like regular clay, and I had far too much experience doing that. Polymer clay is going to be the most durable because when it's actually fired correctly, it bends. So it's plastic, it bends, it doesn't crack, it doesn't break. It's the most durable if you're like wanting to try it. That being said, it's really hard to get it to bake correctly. And you use Primo. Just save yourself the headache. Don't go to Michael's and buy the regular Sculpey because that stuff is not, it's no good. It's awful. So
Wait, is Primo a brand name or is that like
yeah, Primo's the brand name. And so that one is a lot easier to work with, and actually have it fire correctly so that you have that rubbery, because like people will make like trinket dishes out of it, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of small things. And like you can drop it 20 feet onto concrete, the thing bounces. It's fine. Nothing happens. Someone made like a unicorn ring dish, bent the unicorn horn down to the table, bounce right back up. Like it's great if you like working with it and know how to work with it. That was not my bag. Was not having a great time trying to do that. And I was like, I want to get back to clay. I love clay. So how else do I make this work with clay?
Polymer was really hard for me too, and I loved it because it had like such bright colors and all the things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was hard. It was tough.
So
do you have to bake it in a kiln or can you just do like is it hard? Is it the consistency like you said it's hard to bake it correctly?
yeah. So like when I was doing it, you'll laugh. I don't think I've told Becca this. I had, the turkey roasting ovens that you can get for Thanksgiving that have a little lid on it, the portable. I had one of those from way back when, and I had just a piece of glass that I would heat that thing up to the right temperature, put it in, had a thermometer, and to kind of make sure it was hitting the right temperature for the amount of time that you're supposed to cook it for. And like if you do it directly on glass, it can get like kind of hard, shiny spots where it's in contact with the glass. So then you have to get certain types of paper. Like there's all kinds of tips and tricks on how to make it work. And there's lots of groups on Facebook if you want to go down that rabbit hole, just like there is for ceramics. but also that was like the other thing I recognized when I was doing it is it's a really oversaturated market because it is so easily accessible. It's where a lot of people start and they don't do it well, but they still sell the stuff. Um, and so when people would come across my ceramic jewelry, a lot of people were confused. They're like, what is this? Because it looked like enamel because it has that shine quality similar to like enamel on copper jewelry, but it was shaped like polymer because you don't see enamel stuff that has shapes and details and carving to it. And so people were confused because they weren't really seeing it out and about in the world. And like Becca said, now it's like kind of gaining traction. A lot of people are doing it. And I think it's great because you can take whatever your style is and just translate it into something so much smaller. And it's like you get to be a walking gallery and kind of show your work and make it a little more accessible to people who might not be able to afford like a more expensive functional piece or sculptural piece that has a lot more detail and time. But not to say that it doesn't take time, it does. But sometimes it can be just a easier, more accessible price point for your work too.
Yeah. But if you're like used to clay, polymer can be really, really hard. Like for me, it was like so freaking hard. I was like, this is so soft. I can't do anything.
All the fingerprints, all the dirt everywhere. Awful.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard going from clay to polymer.
Yeah, I don't think
Vice
it would be
versa
hard
is
going
probably a
from
little
polymer to
easier.
clay. I mean, it probably would. It's a learning curve both ways. Yeah,
Because I
for sure.
suspect the draw would be, hey, like the time is way less invested from start to finish.
Oh
So maybe
yeah, like you can make something, throw it in the oven, it's like 20, 30 minutes done. That is the thing. Just public PSA, don't put it in your home oven. The chemicals are toxic and they stay in your oven. So if you're baking it, don't put it in your home oven. Get a different type of oven.
I'm not dead.
a toaster oven.
Um, I feel like I've seen people use the toaster oven. I don't know. Like I said, I just had that dome thing because it is literally an oven that I could dedicate to that. So they make special things for it. I don't know what most people use, but
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for answering that
hopefully.
because I suspect that's something worth weighing when
Yeah,
you're
because it's like I think
considering it.
you cook it at like 350 or 375. So like a normal household oven goes to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not good because the
I guess
plastic.
55, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, this is a good segue since we're talking about clay. What do you fire to? I'll talk about what I fire to, and then you can talk about what you're firing to. Like, why don't you use low fire clay? Why don't you use high fire? Like, what, why do or don't you use what you do?
Perfect. All right. Yeah, you said you're gonna kick it off.
Yeah, I'll talk about what I do, which is a little bit different, mostly because I don't want to care that much, but I fire my pieces to cone 4. I don't fire fully. I don't vitrify my clay fully. Um, I don't leave them bisqued by any means, but because a lot of times I'm working with like a stroke and coat or an underglaze that I want to be like very vibrant, I hit it right before 5. I don't like to get too hot. And I'm using a lot of red clays too right now, which are great when you go to 5 instead or 4 instead of 5 because they're a little bit more red, like red.
Nice.
So, um
You've played around with a lot of clays too, not just the
yeah.
red. You've used. Haven't you done porcelain too? Like porcelain, stoneware, red, black.
Yep, and I still fired it to 4.
Yeah.
I like the way I see it is you need it to be hard enough to not chip, but also like nobody's eating off a pair of earrings, so who cares if
Yeah.
they suck in a little water? Like, who actually cares? Well, because I also leave my pieces unglazed, whereas Deanna glazes all of her pieces everywhere except for the studs. So, we could talk about that in a minute, but
Yeah. Yeah. So I specifically use high water clay level loafers, and that's just a holdover because that's what I've used for the last 15 years practically. I love it because that's what I did for my sculpture. So that's what when I started like wanting to do this, I was like, I'm just gonna use what I have. But I have messed around with a few other clays since. At one point, to Becca's mention, the colors because I use mostly Stroke and Co, Amico Celadons, all commercial glazes for what I do. Um, the colors are so much more vibrant at the low fire temperature. So I had got some Laguna low fire E something, I don't remember. And I made a nice fall batch. I was so excited to do all these fall colors, and they did not hold up to save their lives. They cracked left and right. I had to replace so many things, and it was a single, thank God, it was only one batch of like 30 pieces, but I felt awful when they started coming in. I was like, oh my God, they looked so great, except the clay is not durable. So I went back to doing my high fire immediately after that batch because I saw it like in real time carrying my jewelry to shows. I have foam core stacked on top of each other in a box with some of that like shelf rubber stuff that keeps things from sliding around. And that's how I carry all my jewelry on cards from show to show. And just the weight of the foam core like cracked where the metal was into the clay. On one of them, and I was just like,
so they were cracking post firing, not like you weren't
like,
losing a bunch of it building up to actually
no,
finishing it.
Yeah, it was completely done. I was taking it to sell, and I was like, oh my God, like, oh what? So that got pulled real quick. But yeah, so that was no fun. So I went back to high water, which is what I love. And if I find that I really want those low fire colors, Becca's talked about it before, but just I fully fire my my clay, and then I glaze it and refire it to the low temperature, which takes forever to dry, but you
when you
can't
say fully
do it.
fire, are you going only to bisque, or are you going all the way to cone
No,
5 and then you're glazing it?
So I fired a cone. It's technically cone 6. It's cone 5 with a 25-minute hold, so it reaches a cone 6, both in my scud and my LNL. There are different hold times, but they both hit that temperature. And so I do that just because it fully vitrifies the clay and again makes it more durable, so I don't have any issues with cracking and things like that. So that's why I do it. But there's a few instances. There was one time I accidentally overfired unintentionally, so I had to glaze everything. That was the first time I did it, and was like, great, it still works, it's still fine. Just took forever to glaze all of it. And then I did it again more recently because someone wanted a mustard yellow, and I couldn't get that nice mustard yellow color from the Stroke and Co unless it was at that cone 05. So I fully fired it up to basically the cone 6 and then glazed it. But yeah, so that's what I fire to. I do 3 firings, which is different from Becca because I do a bisque, a glaze, and a luster. So mine is 05, 5 with the hold, and then 018. Lusters can be anywhere from 018 to 020 mid range. And I'm still working through my Mako that's been discontinued, but I've heard great things about the Colorama, and I know a lot of people are carrying the Laguna lusters now, a lot of the distributors, so there's good options out there, but still working through those.
I know somebody with a bunch of the Mako stuff.
Who's that?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. I mean,
I'm sure some people stocked up and bought up the whole batches that people had.
Black market shit.
Thanks,
They're
Ryan.
like, how much you got?
Yeah, no, it's I think this one was just like they had a bunch and they don't need it. But yeah, it's definitely firing. It's a lot. I feel like I started firing to 4 mostly because like when I was firing to 5, like the underglazes would crack a little bit and just like I got more issues and they would stick to the shelf more and like because I'm doing a completely different process than Deanna. So Deanna hangs all of her stuff on posts and also we're not giving away all of her secrets, by the way. So Sephora did a workshop with her and apparently it's life-changing. I didn't listen to it. I want to listen to it eventually,
I
but
think they can buy the recording, right?
They can, yeah. You can buy the recording. It's I think that same 40 or $45 price, and you get it for 90 days. Whereas if you took the class, you had it, I think it was 6 months. But yeah, you still get the access for a good amount of time.
yeah,
And
we'll link to it down below if people want to.
2-hour chock full of all the information, like beginning to end, all the things. So.
Like I literally don't even know how Deanna doesn't bend her posts, like the rods. I still don't know that secret, and I know it's in there.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm sure having them very thin and light probably helps.
Hi, everybody. I am just getting on and interrupting to talk to you about NCECA and LNL and what you can be prepared for when you go to NCECA. If you go this year, which is in Salt Lake City, they are actually giving away a plug and fire kiln. So that's really exciting. Usually they give away a bigger one, but I think the plug and fire is so much more accessible, and yeah, I'm really excited to see who gets that and how they can use it and everything like that. Not only are they giving away one at their booth, which is number 508, but they are also giving one to a teacher and their student from the K through 12 exhibit. So if you know any teachers or students that are going to be in the K through 12 exhibit, you should definitely tell them. How exciting is that? Anyway, so yeah, they're also, we always say this every year, but they're going to have special prices for the kilns that they have at NCECA. They have 3 kilns. They have the E18S-3, the E23T-3. That's the most popular model. I believe that's a 7 cubic foot kiln. And one E2827. And so those are all going to be at NCECA, and they're all going to be for sale at a discounted price, and you can email them at sales@hotkilns.com and ask about what that price will be. And yeah, it's going to be great. NCECA is going to be awesome. All the things are going to be awesome. And not only that, but I'm actually doing a workshop with Sephora from Seaport Ceramics, SIPOR, and it is sponsored by LNL, so I'm going to be changing out the elements in my plug and fire, changing out the relay, changing out the thermocouple, so that you guys can, if you haven't done that before, that way you can have a really comprehensive workshop on how to do that. So, anyway, you can find all this stuff at hotkilns.com. I don't think it matters. I think I'm not, we don't know. We'll never know, Ryan. So,
It's
Have
a
either of you
secret, is what she's saying.
have either of you used grog in your clay? Would that make it lighter and more durable or less durable or?
no.
I've not added to it, but I mean, the Little Loafers has grog in it, so.
A little bit.
Well, I would like to eventually add the grog that Chris Alvashier's company is. It'd be fun to add some of that grog into the clay and then tumble it down to see it.
Oh, is that partly his is it Fleck and Specs or Flex
Yeah,
Specs or whatever?
Plug and Specs or whatever, that's his company.
Oh,
So
yeah, that'd be cool.
I want to talk about wires. Let's first talk about what wire you put into the clay, and then we'll talk about ear wires.
Okay.
Okay, let's fucking do it.
Wire into the clay.
I love how she's so visual. Like, nobody can see you, Deanna.
It's okay. I can read it if it's in front of me. Cathnol wire is what I use. I used to buy the Kemper's packet of wire because it was what was available at local distributors, but you can go on Amazon and get it in a significantly, I think the Kemper is like 5 feet and the one from Amazon is 100 feet for less. So it's the same wire and it's great. And I actually had someone point out in the talk, because I thought it only went to cone 6. It technically speaking goes to cone 10. I've not had anyone try it and successfully do it, but it says
it's the same material that your rods are made out of.
Right. But so, again, I mean, so with the okay, to back this up a little bit, the wire I used to make used to put into the clay at the first stage that will then be used to hang it. But I also use the wire to make almost like miniature Christmas hooks, which is what I use to suspend it from the much thicker rods that go from stilt to stilt.
Yes.
Those kind of Christmas hooks that I use, I have fired some of them well over 50 times and they're still fine. Eventually they wear out, you get a little ball on the end, you're like, yeah, that's gonna break soon, and you toss it and you make a new one. But it lasts a long time, and I attribute it to having that much higher firing temperature listed on there.
So yeah, and so that's Canthel with a K, Kanthel.
No,
You
AL.
can ale.
AL. Yeah.
Ale. Now you want to make sure that you're buying Canthel and not nichrome. Nichrome has nickel in it. That's why it starts with an N.
Nickel
So
chrome
nichrome
has a
is
nichrome. Yeah.
also a high temp wire, but it is not what you want to use. And the reason, like I said before, is that it has nickel in it. And Canthol is just a hell of a lot more safe for people to, if it accidentally touches their skin, if it's on a necklace and it touches their neck, anything like that. Now, this is the wire that like we make U hooks and then you stick it into the clay and then you fire your piece just like you would an ornament. It's the same wire that those ornament hooks are made out of. Speaking of her little Christmas hooks, I take the already bent U hooks that are meant for ornaments and I just bend both sides out and make like a little mustache looking thing. And that's what I hang my stuff on when I have to hang it.
Is that is that kind of what the pins for elements are for, are made out of? Are those
Yes,
Yeah.
nichrome or are
actually,
those
it's the
Kanthal?
exact same thing.
Yep. Same
So
thing.
everything, yeah, you can literally, if you had Canthol wire and you were replacing all your elements and you're like, damn it, I need another pin, you could literally cut it off of that thing and just use it as a pin.
We should also talk about thicknesses, right? Because the
Yeah.
thicknesses of those pins for the wire is significantly different from what we use in
Yep.
our jewelry. We use 24 gauge. I would recommend staying 20 or below for
Yeah.
your actual jewelry pieces. But for making hooks, the thicker that you can get it, the better off you are, the more durable it'll be and long lasting.
Yeah. So 24 gauge, Ryan, the higher the gauge, the smaller the wire. So
Mm-hmm.
24
Okay.
is thinner than 20. Um, and
Okay.
20 is what like the standard size, and we use 24 because it's thinner, it's smaller, it looks better. Hey, what's that like cutter thingy called that we got?
Cutter thingy. Oh, these things? These things?
Yeah, those. Does it say on there?
It does not. It just says 1.5 millimeter and 2.25 are the two sizes I bought. So these are wire cutters that Becca and I both got to make the U's. They're great. You can buy them. They come in 3 different sizes. You can get them from places like Michael's, or you can go on Amazon or bead suppliers, things like that. They all sell them. And it's great because it makes the perfect size pin every time, and it cuts it simultaneously, so you're not having to switch back and forth between different pliers to make.
What size did you like the best?
So for my small dangles, I use the 1.5 millimeter. For my large dangles, I use the 2.25, and that's just to give you the diameter, the inside diameter of the circle that it makes at the for the U shape.
Okay, this is what I feel like we should create a whole list, right? Like we should create like a whole Amazon fucking list. This is called, I'll do that so that I
It's
can.
it's hard for me to understand because you're talking Kanthal and nichrome. I'm trying to understand what goes on the ceramic. On the ceramic is Kanthal. Hanging from in the kiln is
Is
nichrome, right?
No,
No, it's all Canthol.
It's all
Yeah.
Kanthal.
I'm saying
Okay.
don't use nichrome. Okay, this tool is called the Beadsmith One Step Looper Pliers. Again, the Beadsmith One Step Looper, Looper pliers. I Googled eye hook wire maker.
Are those expensive? Like, are those
They're
easy to
not.
get?
They're
They're
not.
not. Okay.
They're worth every penny.
Because I would guess people are like, well, I could just use like some tools I already have.
Yeah,
Like,
that's kind of how I started. Is I had like needle nose pliers, just like you get from Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever, and I have wire cutters. And that was how I was doing it. And Becca's like, dude, save yourself the headache and get these. And I was like, man, like I am for everything, Becca.
well,
Don't.
you're production now. I mean, if somebody's just wanting to dabble,
Right. And Becca wasn't the only one. There was gosh, I'll look her up. I can't remember her handle, but she had also recommended. I was like, all right, I got 2 people that recommended this. I'm going to try it because they both said it's great. And it is, because like I said, you can feed it through the hole, it makes the loop for you, and it cuts it for you. So it saves your hands, not having to go back and forth constantly between the two. And the pressure that you needed to actually like make the movement was great. But if you're wanting to just try this out and not spend a ton of money just to try it, by all means, if you have needle nose pliers, if you have wire cutters, those will do the job just fine. You don't have to go out and buy these. But if you're like, yeah, I love this, and you want to save your hands and save some time, get them. You won't regret it.
What's great about these is that you can give it to somebody who knows not how to do this. Like, it's actually unreasonably hard to teach people how to do a U-hook the right size. And
I can contribute because Brandon helps me all the time, right? And he has massive hands, and he was like, oh my God, I struggle to make these, and just like fumbling around trying to make such small things because his hands are so large. And when I was like, here, I got something new, and just handed it off to him, he's like, oh my God, these are great. I can do this. This is so easy. And like, he would just help me out and do it while he was sitting there watching something on the computer. And
you could have a 6-year-old do it. It'd be easy. So yeah, those are great. So anyway, Canthal.
Sorry, Ryan. It was such a long episode.
Okay.
Well, I feel like some of it, I was looking on the ceramic shop or something, and it was hard sometimes to notice even Canthal being in there.
Yeah, Clay King is who I'd recommend. That they've got the wires that I use for hanging it from the stilts, and they also sell the
rods. The rods.
They sell the rods, and they sell that wire as well.
Yeah, but don't buy the wire from ceramic shop. Just save yourself some money and get the Canthal from Amazon.
Yeah, it will. It'll last you forever.
Okay, Canthal, Amazon. The rods to actually hook them on, get that from a ceramic store. Clay King.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've also bought them on Amazon, but I don't recommend them. They're very long.
And that's the gauge that you're talking about, the 24 gauge? Or is that a different?
Oh, go on.
The 24 gauge is what goes into the jewelry. The rods, I want to say, are like 1 point something millimeters. So basically, if you type in like bead tree replacement wire or replacement rod on Clay King, that's what comes up. And you can buy, like, I think it's a pack of 12 6-inch rods. You're good to go out the door.
Okay.
Bead tree. Okay, I see it.
I'm going to create a visual, I'm going to talk through this.
So Becca, to save you the time, I have this list because I made this list for the workshop that I did.
It's funny. It's got the bead tree wires on Clay King, and the branding says the ceramic shop on it. But the pins look just like what the stilts go in the element.
But also we've been talking about like 24 gauge, 20 gauge rods. Okay, 24 gauge, you make a U-hook, and that U-hook goes into your clay piece. Okay? If you're going to use anything that's 20 gauge, that is a little Christmas tree hook that goes over a rod. And the rod sits on 2 stilts, and the pieces hang from the rod. Okay? Okay. Quick and dirty. Great.
Cool. Now we're going to talk about the wire that actually goes into your ear that's connected to the piece that we just made.
Yes, you do not need to know about gauges here.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually do.
I mean, a lot of those things you don't even have. You can fire it flat on a shelf. Like, you don't have to hang anything, right?
No, if you're not glazing front and back, you don't have to hang them. If you want to glaze it front and back and make it look all shiny everywhere, you have to hang it. And tip on that, if you're doing it, clean and you glaze your wire, use your brush and some water and clean off your wire. That way you're not glazing your hook to your piece. That's no fun. So
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Deanna, tell us what is the only 2 metals you should be using. Well, I guess there's 3, but in your ears.
Okay. So you want to use hypoallergenic metals. What that means, hypoallergenic does not contain nickel, copper, or brass. People can be allergic to other metals, but those are the 3 metals you want to steer clear of. What people don't know is stainless steel and surgical steel both contain nickel, so don't use them. You're going to hurt people. You want to use titanium, niobium. I think it's niobium, one of the two. I don't know how you pronounce it.
It looks like niobium.
Yep, there you go. So titanium, that, silver or gold. Some people can be allergic to silver or gold. It's very rare, very uncommon, but those are both considered hypoallergenic metals. Titanium is the best of the best, top notch. If you're getting like implants, medical implants, it's titanium for a reason. Your body doesn't reject the metal. So number one, titanium. Yes.
I would like to say that also on the very rare occasion, they do sell plastic hooks. So I have a pack of plastic hooks that is only for people that say I can't wear any metal at all, and I'll just whip it up right away, like at a show, you know? Just so you know, they do have them, but it's not like you're not gonna like use them all the time. But yes, I only use titanium, and then, well, I guess I've kind of like delved into silver just because it looks quote unquote shinier. But yes.
Let me like also kind of step back because I said silver or gold. Within the gold, there's three different kind of metals you tend to see. You see gold plated, gold filled, solid gold. All of them are technically hypoallergenic. The core metal does not contain nickel. Again, where you buy it from matters because people do use different cores, but typically it's bronze, so it's not an issue. Plating is a very thin electroplated like film, if you will, of actual gold on the outside. If people sweat a lot, have oily skin, wear it in a pool, what have you, the plating wears off really fast, and then that brass or bronze will turn you green and change your skin colors and all the not fun stuff people don't like about it. So stay away from plating if you can. Gold filled is slightly more expensive, but it requires that a actual percentage of the total thickness of the wire is solid gold with a core in the middle versus just a wire being lightly wrapped in that film of gold. So you'll pay more for it, but it's more durable. It won't tarnish because it is actual gold on that outside, and you're not going to wear through it if you have sweaty or oily skin. And then obviously you have solid gold, which is significantly more expensive, but that's lifetime stuff. So depending on what you want to get committed to.
What about platinum? It says platinum on this thing here.
Yeah, platinum.
Is that just super expensive?
Super expensive. Yeah. It's more than gold. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, platinum. Like, no, we don't. We don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're not platinum rich. Okay.
But yes, platinum technically works. It's just hella expensive. So
I would venture to say that very few ceramics people are making jewelry good enough for even gold. So like, yeah.
Well, and aside from the good enough factor, you have the durability factor, right? Like people who are buying gold and platinum, they're talking about handing stuff down for generations, constant wear and tear, things of that nature. And while ceramics can do that, it's also a very fragile medium and it can crack and it can break when it's dropped. So imagine if someone spent, because like, let's be honest, to buy a solid gold necklace, for example, an 18-inch necklace, you're spending $800 just for the necklace at wholesale cost, solid gold. I buy gold plated at wholesale cost for like $13. So there's a huge price difference, and platinum's even more. But if someone, took that necklace off and accidentally dropped it on ceramic, tile, marble, whatever, and it broke, that's $1,000 they spent that they can't, like, they have the gold to recoup the money from, but the ceramic piece is ruined. It's never the same. So that's kind of why you don't see that metal on ceramic jewelry.
Okay. Let's talk about where we buy them.
Yes. Rio and Firestone Gems are the two main metalsmithing wholesalers, if you will.
Rio Grande
Jewelry Supply?
Yes, that is them.
And then Firestone Gems. And I know there are people that buy stuff from Etsy and support like local people. I just go to the source. That's where they're getting their shit. So
the problem with Etsy is that you don't have the guarantee that what you're getting is actually the metal that it's supposed to be or that it is hypoallergenic. Like that's the downside. You're trusting that the person selling is doing their research and isn't someone that's just buying and reselling stuff from wherever. Whereas the other suppliers, you have a guarantee. So that's kind of the main difference. So I understand wanting to support local when you can. But when it comes to being able to guarantee your product, it's important.
Firestone Gem, the one that's on Etsy or something? Am I not typing it in right?
They might have an Etsy store, but also on top of that, I forgot, as far as silver is concerned, you're using sterling silver, and also there is another silver that is called Argentinian.
Yeah. So it's Fire Mountain Gems.
I was gonna say I'm looking up Fire Mountain Gems is what I'm seeing.
Fire Mountain Gems.
Fire Mountain Gems. Okay.
Argentum, I think it's called. Argentium silver, and it's like a higher silver content than regular silver. It's a lot softer. Just get sterling. Just get sterling. That's it. That's all I have to say. So, if you're gonna get silver, just get sterling. I think they might only make Argentinium hooks. I don't know, but
no, I bought plenty of sterling silver from Rio. That's fine.
Yeah.
So are there like unique names for these types of fittings, or like are they just called backs, or are they called something fancy?
No. So the general term there's for what goes in your ears is called a finding. Under that header, you have what's called the fish hook or fish eye, which is what I use for most of my stuff. You can have clasps, like closed in clasps. You can have, there's like endless. And if you go on these websites, you can see they have them by category. And then you have what are called post backs, which is what we use for our studs. And even within that, you have some variety. So like, I think I use a 5mm stud post back. They go up to like 9mm. The one that Becca used was called a pearl post back. So it's like a little, it's the wire, but it has a little bitty baby, like half circle curved stopper on it. So that way she could push it into the clay and glue it in. And it had a stopper to keep it from going like all the way in to the clay, if that makes sense.
Dude, niobium is so expensive.
What is?
Niobium?
Yeah.
They have different colored niobium earring backs. I search ear wire. That's what I search when I am looking in like Rio Grande.
Yeah.
So like if I was looking for a titanium ear wire, I would just search titanium ear wire and there's 2 results. There's like 2 options for you. One long one and one short one. And I use the short one and they are cheap.
Yeah. And like there's so many variations of like how rounded it is. Is it round more versus oval? Is the circle that you attach the earring to, is it facing inward versus facing out? Like the options are endless. You can make your own too and all this other craziness. But one thing we didn't touch on for the ear wires, you want it to be 20 gauge. If you go thicker, it's too thick for the typical piercing in an ear. And it hurts and is painful because you're gauging your ear, just like when you see the big gauges that are put in, you know, they work their way up to that size. So when you get a piercing, it always starts at that 18 to 20 gauge range. So
I see a bunch of millimeter measurements on here.
4mm? 3mm?
I need to go to ear wire. It says like 14mm flat fish hook. Like, that's an ear wire, but it says 22 gauge at the bottom.
Yeah. So
that's what you want to care about is that gauge.
That gauge. Like
20 or under. So 20, 22, 24. Great.
Okay.
Yeah. So like a post, like an ear wire post, that's 4mm. Also, because like, okay, if you're getting an ear wire post, you also have to get the back. And the back has to be titanium as well. So you have to like match it up. It's a 4mm diameter, lightweight friction ear nut, you know? So.
And that just means that the hole that's in the nut is the appropriate size for whatever the thickness is of the post that's going through it, because the way it works is it puts pressure on the metal and that's what keeps it from falling out of your ear for a post.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then if you're doing like pendants for necklaces and such, you can do thicker wire for your jump rings, which are going to be like 18 gauge, 20 gauge. And the reason you do thicker is that they're harder to bend. So if they get caught or snagged on something, they're not opening up and falling off your necklace. Whereas like when you're doing, like there's some earrings that I do where I have two ceramic pieces I attach together. I use a really thin 22 gauge jump ring because I can't get a small enough jump ring when the wire's that thicker gauge. I have to go with a thinner gauge in order to get a thinner, smaller jump ring to attach them together.
Yeah. So fun.
Do you encourage people to just start with a stud? Just start with studs and just get the backs and that's it? Or like, because you got the stud, you got the thing that goes on the clay, you got the thing it hooks from, you got the jump, like,
I mean, it's all personal preference, right? Like there's people that don't buy dangles, they only buy studs, and people that won't buy studs, they only buy dangles. So really, I like to say, and this is what I told Becca from day one, I was like, make what you like. Like you enjoy it. When you enjoy what you make, people see that it comes through and they buy what you love. If you're making something just to make something and you don't enjoy doing it, no one, they're going to see that. They're not going to buy it. So if you're like, I hate making studs or I hate dangles because I don't want to bother with hanging them and all this other stuff, great, don't do it. Do what you enjoy. Um, if you get into the stud route, you have to deal with what we've not talked about is epoxy to attach them, or super glue in Becca's case. So you've got options. There's also E6000 is another one you'll hear a lot. But
Don't do it. Don't fucking do
yeah,
it.
don't.
Don't fucking do it.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, don't do studs first because studs require glue, and glue is a whole nother alternative thing that will go wrong. It's just a whole hot mess express. It's awful. Um, but I mean, like, I personally like studs the most, like making studs the most, but I make them completely different than Deanna does. So, like, we have like really different ways of doing it. So she can talk about her process, and then I'll talk about mine.
yeah. So we kind of talked about it a little earlier on, but it's a flat piece of clay. I'm cutting out the shapes. So it has that domed surface that's refined, and then it's a flat back. And my post has a back attached to it, my titanium post. And so I'm using 2-part epoxy that I mix up to attach my post to the ceramic back. I don't glaze the back of my studs. I only glaze the top and the sides. Whereas my dangles, I glaze them all the way around, and that's why they hang. So I use 2-part epoxy, specifically JB Weld or Gorilla Glue are the two you want to use. It's the clear 5-minute setting epoxy. I personally like the Gorilla Glue because it's got a water resistant quality to it that the JB Weld doesn't have. And it creates a chemical bond with more materials than the JB Weld does, but they both work great, and I've used both. Yeah, so that's what I use. Becca, you want to say what you use?
As somebody that is not as particular as Deanna, I strongly discourage you using 2-part epoxy. Because I had tried to use 2-part epoxy in the wee beginnings and fucked up the ratio so bad that all of my earrings popped out. So I, so that's your, I'm just saying, like, if you are really precise, do the 2-part epoxy route. Like, go for it. I am not. I know this, and I will never be. So, I use super glue, but there's something that I did find out. I've pretty much failed with all glues, so I know how to compensate for that. But super glue and epoxy both have expiration dates, and you need to know this. So you can't just like fucking grab a super glue that's been in your dad's garage for 45 years. You have to buy a new super glue. You have to buy any new glue. It has to be new. Like you check the fucking batch date, okay? It is
Yeah.
I've literally bought super glue from Amazon, looked at the batch date and was like, I can't use this. Like
And
it
even from the batch date, there's a separate date from when you open the container too for how long it lasts.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Now, I've used two different types of glues actually. I like the Loctite. I like the Loctite glue, but it's like really hard to squeeze after a while. I'm a big fan of the Gorilla Glue Super Glue Clear. I believe that's what it's called. I like that one if it's brand new. And I've also recently, with flatbacks, been using light cured resin. And that has been wonderful because I do that with my workshops and I can
Mhm.
just throw them under the nail light that I have and it's like super fast, right? It's like a super fast set. So I really enjoy that. You just have to make sure that the resin is all around the whatever it's called, the back part,
Post, yeah.
the back post. Now, here's the thing though. So most of my studs, I don't do flat backs like Deanna does. I do round backs and they're like little pea size, like smaller than peas. They're like itty bitty.
They're
And
like beads, like miniature beads, like what you would see on moccasin slippers or something like that. Like
yeah,
that's
like I have one in right now. Um, let's see, I'm gonna measure it on my hand. It's about an eighth of an inch. I mean, like it's not very big at all. And I mean, you've seen them, Ryan. They're itty bitty.
Mhm.
So
And
you is that it's got to be more. It's not going to be as perpendicular to the thing because it's not flat.
So
so
like hers are round, whereas mine have a completely flat back.
yeah. So the way that I do my posts is that when I make them, I put a little, oh shit. When I make them, I put a little hole in the back. And that hole, I buy a different like style of post. Um, and
And that's
that
a pearl post. That's
it's
what
a
it's
pearl post, yeah. And they have like a they have like a 1 star rating on Rio. It's pretty funny actually. And you can buy like 100 of them for like $2.
yeah.
And I learned that because I worked under a glass artist and she would just stick it inside of the glass. And so it was set. It has like one tiny little ring that's super tiny to hold wherever it's going into. And so that's what I use super glue for. That's what like the best thing I could find was super glue. So the two-part epoxy, it was just too small. It's just too small of a space. But these earrings have been holding up for years, and
Oh
I
yeah.
I know that there's some out there that popped off like the first week because I didn't know about the freaking glue situation.
Do
Yeah.
those the the glues also are like a chemical reaction, so they like off gas and stuff. So can
Oh
you make
yeah,
sure to not like will it put a film and stuff if you don't give it air?
that's a good question, Ryan.
Great question.
Great
I learned
question.
stuff in Florida too. So
I remember watching CSI where they put hot glue or gas stuff and they would get fingerprints off of stuff. I remember that.
Okay, so yes, that's a very good thing. Actually, what's really interesting is if you'd like a really nice matte surface, just put a little super glue and then close up your studs, and wow, 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 your glass is now matte. So yeah, if you have to give room for that glue to off gas. So the way I glue studs is I put all of the studs. When they come out of the kiln on the board, I stick a piece of tape on them and then flip them upside down and then I put all the glue on. And if they don't have like a fan or something blowing on them or like being really open, they'll all get acid etched
oh god,
because they're
that's
so
crazy.
tight.
It's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, and with the epoxy, it's stinky and like I do them all here in my studio, but I don't have an issue. I've also never tried closing them in. But I did have issues with when I was down in Florida last year that have come to light since. Um, I had epoxied some when it was super humid out,
Mhm.
and the water and the air impacted the fusion, the chemical bond between the metal and the clay. So make sure wherever you're doing this at, if you're using two-part epoxy, that it's not super humid, that there's no dust, there's no water. So like if you're tumbling something, make sure they're dry, give them a couple days, put them in the
Yeah.
microwave oven, get all the water out before you go about doing this, because then your backs will pop off if you have
Yeah.
water
Maybe if it's humid, use super glue because super glue actually reacts to humidity and that's why it cures. So, but yeah, like if you do use super glue, do not confine them to a space for 24 hours at least. So
But don't be in a rush and get them done
don't
the
get
night before, put them in a box to go to the show, and then they'll end up weird.
Mhm. Yeah. And on that point too,
They've never done that.
even if you use the two-part epoxy, like it says 5 minutes, I think on the package it says cures in 12. Let it sit for 24 hours. Save yourself the time and the headache. Do it, set it, forget it, like they say.
Yeah.
It's not worth
Do
it.
you also have to, is it better to do the gluing directly onto raw clay versus glazed
Yes.
clay? Okay.
It's just like Velcro. You need something to. I also kind of think that that's why I'll fight. Like, I think that's why I started firing the studs,
Lower temperature.
lower temp, because they have a little bit more to soak in.
Yeah, more absorbency. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about tumbling.
That's all you, man.
Okay.
Why do you love it?
Okay, so like Deanna said previously, the way that she does her studs is that she puts saran wrap over and then she cuts them out and then she has to take her metal rib and like rub them off. And I don't know if you've seen those studs, but they're fucking quarter inch. They're tiny. And so I can't imagine your hands, and also I can't imagine the time that it takes. It probably takes forever. So, due to my laziness, I have figured out rock tumbling. Have you picked out all of the M&Ms? Like, what is going on?
It's not M&Ms, it's mixed nuts. I'm just picking out some
Well,
What do
what
you
are
random
you
ones.
yeah,
picking
what's the nut of choice?
Um, the cashews that have like a salty taste to them instead of the ones that are sweet. There's a mixture of sweet and salty.
Interesting.
They're
He's
good.
like fucking devouring this mixed nut mixture.
I'm hungry, but it's on mute, so it's okay.
Anyway, okay, so what I do actually is I don't even use saran wrap. Right now, I've like literally gone from like 0 to 100, and now I will cut my slabs into like the shapes that I want them to be, and I'll bisque them, and I don't touch them. I do not clean them up. I leave them as raw as I possibly can. I throw them in the rock tumbler with ceramic medium, which is essentially just pieces of ceramics, and sometimes I get rocks, and I like put those in, and sometimes I will use like a heavy grit, like a coarse grit. I do have some of that. I do think it works better, but in a pinch, it's easy to just chop up a bunch of like ceramic pieces. You need to make sure though that your grit is like not smooth, that it's got harsh angles. So I chop it into like triangles and stuff with an X-Acto. And I put them in the rock tumbler with water, and like the ones that I've been doing recently, I'm not putting in the ear wire, like the I'm not putting in the Kanthal of these ones just because of how long I'm tumbling them. I haven't tried it, but I definitely would not. Um,
How long do you tumble for the people who don't know?
these ones I've been tumbling for 2 days. And yeah, Ryan just looked at me like crazy.
What? 2 days?
It's like a day and a half, 2 days. Yeah.
Two
So
Earth
depending on,
days? Jeez.
and that's at Bisque. If I was doing this when they were like at Glaze, it would have to be like 2 weeks. But and people always think they're like, "What? It won't break?" And no, it will not. It will not break. Like it is. They're so sturdy, and rock tumblers are so gentle. You just don't realize how gentle they are because they spin, and you think
I
it's
mean, it's just like a river, river
yeah, it's
passing
just
the
like doing
rocks and
it.
the clay that's a
So
riverbed.
yeah, so I've been tumbling all of my jewelry for years, but
2 days at Bisque.
I
Wow.
I've just started doing the tumbling where like aggressively at Bisque. When I was like last year, I would just tumble it for maybe 3 hours, 4 hours at Bisque, and then I would uh bisque like glaze them, and then I only tumble the glaze pieces against themselves with no grit for an hour. So, and that's just with underglaze. There's no shiny glaze on there at all because I like the matte finish. Um, and you do have to wait. Like you do have to wait a while. Like when I'm tumbling the bisque pieces, I typically wait a day for them to dry. in like a dry humidity, or I'll just honestly sometimes I'll just pop them in the oven and let them off steam. And
Did
and
you
then
say what you bisque them to? Are you bisquing to like Deanna like 05 or are you bisquing them a different
I think I bid to 06
06?
or
And
oh
you're
04.
not putting,
I'm not
are you
particular.
putting underglaze on them at green or once they're tumbled?
No, I put them after I tumble them. Yeah.
After you tumble it, let them dry
After I tumble them.
fully.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when before I put them in the rock tumbler, after I bisque them, they look like a crude, like they look like a 6-year-old cut out a donut. That's what it looks like. Okay. To make it easier on myself, I do make them smooth. They don't have the texture of the slab roller, um but that's what it looks like. And then when you take it out, it looks like the smoothest could be. So, and when I put them back in the tumbler after they're glazed, that's just to knock off that like gritty feeling that you get from the underglaze. Every underglaze has it. I would do it with any underglaze, doesn't matter the brand. So, um, but I find
But
that if you do it for more than an hour, the glaze kind of wears away. So if you want that weathered look, that's fine. But I personally don't. You can't, you need to make sure that you pack your tumbler not super tight. So I try to do it 2/3 of the way up. I have a double tumbler, so I usually do two at a time.
something we haven't talked about too that's really great with tumbling is if someone uses porcelain and mason stains, like rock tumbling is a great option, right? To get that because you can use different grits, different. So it's called shot is the medium that you can buy for rock tumblers, and you can get polishing shot, and you can have some really pretty shiny porcelain stuff that you've
Yeah.
tumbled, and it can be colorful from the mason stains. So
Yeah, and like the super shiny, I don't think would rub away all the stuff. But like if you want it to be super shiny, then you're going to be needing to use colored clay as opposed to like underglazes on there because it's going to rub it away, you
yeah, so
know?
that's what I'm saying. Like with the porcelain itself, like once it's fully fired, it already has that sheen, but sometimes you might have the texture or
Yeah.
whatever. But you can throw fully fired porcelain piece in to the tumbler and get that really refined, polished look on a porcelain piece.
Yeah. Also, I also this is just like one of those little hot tips, you know. I use those timers. I found a timer on Amazon that I use for the tumbler and it's got a 30-minute uh I think it's like 30-minute, 45-minute, 60-minute, 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours. And that way I know exactly how long it's gone. That way I'm not leaving it to my forgetful memory. So,
It'll actually
um,
shut it off.
yeah, it'll shut it off. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Plug the timer into the wall and then you plug your tumbler into the timer and then you turn it on whichever hours you want it to go. So that's been really nice, especially with the last one that's only an hour. You don't want to forget that, you know?
Mhm.
So I just set it for an hour and it goes until it stops. So,
Okay. How
yeah.
like what's a ratio between like the I mean, I guess it depends on if you're doing it bisque or finished. Like what's the ratio of the amount of ceramic piece or the ceramic density versus the grit density?
So, like I said, my grit, I just use like old pieces that didn't make the cut and also I'll do a really thin slab and cut it into like sharp objects and I probably do like a half cup of that. Not that much,
And
honestly.
then how much ceramic you
Probably
fill
like
the
a half
rest of
cup
it
to like
2/3 with
2
ceramics?
cups. Yeah, like a half cup to 2 cups. Mostly because I don't have that much.
And then
Like
do you
Well,
have to remake those little shards over because they will sand themselves down?
eventually, yeah.
Okay.
and to kind of add on to it, I mean, how much Becca's using is dependent on the size of her tumblers, right? Like you can get a gazillion different sizes. So Becca, like in inches, how thick is your tumbler? So like 4 inches
Not
thick.
really. I mean, like mine's the one that you get at Harbor Freight, and they are probably 4 inches wide by 5 inches tall.
Okay. And
So,
so
yeah,
like, maybe an inch of the grit and then like an inch of pieces worth in there and then the rest water
no, like an inch of the grit and 3 inches of pieces.
and then fill it with
I
water.
leave about an inch from the top. Yeah,
Cool.
depending on how much stuff I have. But
Google drum rotary rock tumbler.
Yeah, I think that Harbor Freight,
$30.
and they used to be red. They used to be the Chicago brand, and now I think they're a different brand.
It says that on their website. It says it's $30, Chicago Electric Power Tools, dual drum rotary torque tumbler. It doesn't
I'm
look that large. Oh, it says unavailable, sorry.
Yeah. There's a $70 one that's a dual drum. It looks like it's pretty good quality, the Central Machinery one.
£6 on that one.
Yeah, so you can do 3 pounds per, but that's assuming that you're making rocks. You're
Okay.
tumbling.
I suspect there's also a minimum amount of pieces you would want to put in one of those. Like if you just put 3 or 4 pieces in one, like
Well,
there's probably a limit to how much it'll.
it doesn't matter too much. You know, it's all just trial and
Trial and
error.
error.
And like, okay, so for Deanna's, like for her little tiny studs, I would not smooth out the edges. Okay. I would just take the things off, make sure they're generally symmetrical as far as what's going on. I'd throw them into the tumbler, and if I was doing it for the first time, I'd throw them into the tumbler with a rock compound or a ceramic compound, and which is, like I said, just broken pieces or like a slab. And then I would do it for an hour. I check it. I do it for another hour. I check it. I think that it would be 2 to 3 hours tops. So, and
With
then
the wire, would you do it for a shorter amount of time on? No.
I don't think so because the bisque is so soft. And like I've put those wires in there and I put them in for a day and they barely took any hit. So like I think that you're fine, but like I said, I would still test it and see, and it might only take an hour for you to get to a point where it's like smooth all the way around the edges and still everything that you need it to be.
That makes
The
sense.
only time that you're going to get everything rounded is when you leave it in there for a day and a half, 2 days. So,
Gotcha. Can you guys hear this background noise or no?
No,
can you hear the bathtub?
no,
Okay, no. Brandon's on the phone, so I was like, I wonder if you can actually hear him laughing and talking. So, okay, great.
no.
That's good because Brandon has like the loudest laugh I've ever heard in my life.
That's why I was asking. I was like, you might hear this.
So Deanna, like how much time would that save you by doing something like that? Or would it be a big inconvenience for your process?
No, I mean, it would save a lot of time, like doing this 505 day, like, because I've always known that start to finish for my studs, like we're talking glazing and lustering, 5 pairs an hour for my studs, like 3 to 2 for dangles, and then it takes me an hour and a half total work time on my large dangles, depending on the design, because I'm hand carving them. So if I was just cutting out all my studs and not doing anything to them, you're talking about 50 in 5 minutes, 50 pairs, right? Like it would cut a significant amount of cleanup time. And that's what, I mean, ultimately, that's what drives that time for me is that cleaning up of the edges, putting in the wire. I add in clay because, like, it makes little holes where I insert the wire into the clay. And so I fill that in with some clay to make sure the wire is fully embedded and good to go. And like I'm cleaning up the edges on all my dangles, making sure it's nice and smooth. So if I'm able to tumble it and do virtually no cleanup, just cut, poke, off I go, that would save hours.
I think that Deanna has like the same issue I have, where if you tell her to do something, she's like, "Fuck you."
I do. It's
So if you discover rock tumbling, would you cut your price then, or would you keep the same price on stuff?
Keep the same price. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I don't know that I would reduce it because I am struggling even currently with, like, I mean, I just shared with you the dollars of what I brought in versus what went out the door because of my costs related to traveling and hotels and shows. And I pay more for my findings, and the cost of that is all going up because cost of gold is going up. So I wouldn't cut the costs because of that. And Becca and I have talked about this multiple times, but I need to get my designs for my larger dangles turned into stamps or make my own clay plaster molds so that I can just cut the time down on that because that kills me. I redid all of my now that I've been doing this for a couple of years, I've gotten faster, right? So quite literally the end of last year, I retimed myself to see how much things had changed. And a lot, I would say the numbers for making time was half of what I thought it used to be. But I currently, with like last year, I was charging $52 for a necklace. My wholesale price for a necklace should be $72.
Wow.
So based on how much time it takes me to make them and what I
Oh, you're
pay.
charging 52 retail, but your wholesale should have been 72?
Yes, which is why I say my money makers are my studs and my small dangles. That's what pays my bills, not my large dangles or my necklaces, which is what brings people into my booth. And the largest dollar seller, like when Square does the reports for in-person shows, like large dangles were my highest grossing product. It's great because they cost more, but even on those range
Your
from
profit margin's way higher on the cheaper things.
Yes, yeah. My range on those large dangles are 48 to 58 last year. And when I redid the numbers, my wholesale price should be 52 on those.
Do you remember how long it took you to get a kiln and how I nagged you about it every single day?
A kiln?
No, Ryan. How long it
Oh,
took you to
yeah.
get a kiln and how I nagged you every single day about it?
Yeah.
Times that by 4.
For raising my prices. Becca from day one is like, you need to charge more, but and I don't disagree. Like I just verbally told you I need to be charging more for my necklaces and my large dangles. I understand. There's a market.
It's a
And yes,
stair step.
market for everything. I understand that as well. For the price points I would need to charge, I would need to strictly sell online, right?
No,
Like
more specifically, you need to take a week out of your fucking life and make the things that'll make your life faster.
Yes, this is true as well. It is. Hey, I'm starting with 505 days. Okay, we're getting into the production lifestyle. I don't enjoy production, but it is my life, so I'm working on
This
it.
would be a nice period of time because you'll probably be able to look back and see how much time it actually took you to make 505 days. And if you did this a year from now and you rocked up and stuff, like,
Yeah,
might be a good
yeah,
comparison.
it is. It's good because I do, even though like yesterday, right, I did 110 pairs. And while I started at like, was it 9:30 in the morning and I was done at midnight, I know what breaks I took for like cooking dinner and going to the grocery store and taking meetings. Like I was able to time all that. So I have a realistic idea of how much, like, it's for 10 pairs of studs right now in this time frame, it's taking me an hour for 10 pairs for the dangles, and I can do 20 studs in an hour. So it's, yeah, I have a better sense. So, highly recommend the challenge to anyone who's curious on what they can and can't do. It'll test your limits and you'll figure it out real quick. And you will also figure out, as Savannah, she's like, I'm sure you're going to learn a lot about what can help you speed up your process, what's slowing you down. I was like, oh yeah, that's day one. You'll figure it out real fast.
I mean, that's why we tell people to do multiples instead of like focus on good singles,
Mm-hmm. Well, like, and I was, even before this, I've always made in bulk. Like I was making every week over the course of, I had 5 days because I was doing shows for 2 days on the weekend. So over the course of 5 days, I was doing between 30 to 75 pairs of earrings. It was a combination of dangles and studs. And I was like kind of how you talk about contact switching in the administrative world, right? Switching back and forth between emails and the task you're doing. You have that when you're changing shapes and you're changing colors and you're changing tools. And so if you're able to focus even just 2 hours on one shape being made, the amount that you can get done is astronomical compared to switching back and forth for a smaller amount. But in my case, that was the boat I was in because I had to get them made because I had this show and I needed it because I was out of these designs. So I needed 3 of these and 2 of these and 5 of these. And so that's kind of the beauty of doing this when there aren't shows. So
How many designs do you make now?
too many.
What's too many? Like 12 to 15?
35 or more.
35.
Like I have in the studs and the small dangles, there's 6 different shapes that I do, but in the large dangles, there's There's well over 30 different designs that I consistently do still. I've done more over time, but
And that's not even the color differences. That's just strictly like canvases to work off of.
Yeah, I've probably got at least 20 different colors that I consistently do as well. I have 10 that I would say are my best selling colors, but I consistently have, there's consistently 10 different colors of studs that I put out at every show of each shape. So.
And there's a portion of that 35 that are only for wholesale, or like it's not profitable to wholesale.
Correct.
25 of those, or
like I don't wholesale my large dangles or my necklaces. I only wholesale the studs and the small dangles. I do consign my large stuff. That being said, I don't give them the same amount of the same quantity I do of the smaller dangles and the studs. I only get, like, let's say, because I had this happen at the beginning of this year. I brought in new consignment people, right? And I will deliver 40 pairs. 30 of those are studs and small dangles. The other 10 are a combination of large dangles and necklaces, because that's like, when you, even with 2D artists, you talk about like having that eye-catching, the big piece that brings people into the booth to see, but the prints are their money makers. It's, that's what feeds them most of the time until they have that big sale. But yeah, that's kind of what my large dangles and my necklaces are for me.
And you just have that boundary with them of like, we want more of the large dangles, and you just say, I'm sorry, this is all I can.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very rare that I have someone saying like, I need more of they just say, I need more in general. They're never specific because they don't track which of the different things sell. I'm the one who tracks it.
Really?
Oh yeah, like it's, because I guess it would have been end of 23 I came out with my kind of numbering structure for everything, because I was like, God, I gotta figure out how to track what people are selling, because no one would write in the description. And I'm like, I don't know what colors are selling, I don't know what designs are selling, like I'm sending people duplicates of things that haven't sold. So I finally got that all figured out, and it took a lot to get them to even just track those numbers, because they're not tracking. They're just like, this artist sold these dollar amounts, they don't care.
So it depends on the shop you're working with, because like the 3 shops that I still work with, they actually have, they expect me to give them an itemized list of what I'm bringing with item numbers so that they can coincide them, and then they barcode them. But it sounds like it just depends on the shop you're working with, how detailed they are.
Yeah. And I mean, every shop that I work with, they want a detailed list, and I tell them what it is, but at the end of the day, what they put into their system isn't always a copy, because, people have limits on like character counts for descriptions and things like that. And so sometimes they would just put in blue earring, and I'm like, that's great. I have like 5 different blues. I don't know what blue this is.
Yeah.
So that was kind of when I came up with the numbering system.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about necklaces, earrings, wires, firing. What didn't we talk about back then?
Cards.
Yeah, displaying. How you display and sell.
Yeah.
You sound so tired.
It's interesting to like sit and like listen to a baby cry while you're like talking to somebody, it just like exhausts you just because you're like thinking about that kid crying, and it's like you can't do anything about it. But they're there.
Got it. All right, so cards. There's a variety of ways to do it. We both do very, very different things. When I started off I've always put my earrings on cards for selling in my booth from day one. That was how I started. I started off using like brown craft paper that I cut up using a little paper cutter, use a little baby hole puncher. And eventually I was like, I want these to be thicker and classier. So I actually switched to buying sheets of mat board from Dick Blick, and I take 28 sheets of mat board over to my local print shop, and I pay them to cut it into the sizes that I want. Because I use mat board, they're not able to hole punch. If you use like thinner cardstock, a lot of the local printers can cut and punch if you need. But thanks to Becca, I use a 1/16 drill bit and just drill my holes into all my mat board once I get them back, once they've been cut at the printers.
Oh, so it's just a big stack of them and you just zip.
And I have a little guide that I just use, and that way they're in the same spot every time. And
Wow.
obviously you can't do them too thick because the drill bit's only so long, and you have to be very intentional. Make sure you drill them straight down and not at an angle, which I am like the most guilty about. But it's great. So much better than hole punching. So
Yeah,
do yourself that favor.
a lot better. But I would say that like a bigger one, like if you're gonna hang them, you might want to just hole punch those regularly, because it does, like if you drill a bigger hole, it can create kind of a mess.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Oh,
and
the hook, the one that you would hook it onto a rack or
Yeah.
something. It just
Yeah.
doesn't look good.
yeah, you get a clean line for hole punching. And so that's the, like, all of mine sit, for people who don't know, in a wooden like tiered display that goes up. So that's part of why I switched to the mat board, is they can stand up just fine. They're not flopping or bending, which they would do when they were on cardstock. And then the stores that consign my stuff, like I bought a pack of 100 little acrylic like nameplate holders, like you would see at like a banquet dinner or something, or like a wedding that puts your name. Like I used that acrylic holder for my earring card to stand up in on its own, so I don't have to have a big display. I can just have individual sitting in these little card holders. And then I also I more recently got some tea stands to put my higher priced items on and make them look more like what they're worth. So
Tea stands?
yeah, so it's a metal tea basically, and then the top of the tea has holes in it, and you put your earrings through the holes, and then the bottom of the tea is like a weight, so it just stands there freestanding. It's a little tea stand.
I've been next to some jewelers, and those are the kinds of stands that are lightweight and they just flop over if it's windy at all.
Yeah,
And you're like, they're fighting with that all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but pro tip that I learned, because a lot of those tea stands are metal, I've ran into people who just drilled some metal, like some steel plates underneath their table, and so they set them down on top and they stick because of the magnet to the plate underneath their table. So then they don't get the wind. I was like, that's genius.
That is genius.
And then other people have like used Velcro, because when you set up your displays, it's always in the same spot, same place. And so some people just have Velcro permanently on the bottom of those tea stands, and then on whatever box they sit on the display.
And have you, and this might be too specific to shows, but have you found that light is essential or not essential? Does it just depend on the show? I guess white top is essential for sure if it's a tent.
Yeah. So in my opinion, lighting is as essential as the white top when it comes to jewelry. Even like I did a little 3-hour kind of pop-up thing for Christmas, and I brought my lights and did it for that. When you're selling jewelry, it's so small, and your tent will always cast shade, and being able with ceramics to see the true colors and to just kind of have that added glow to your booth to help draw people in as they walk by. And I am a strong advocate for lights, whether you're doing jewelry or functional ceramics or sculptural ceramics. It makes such a difference when you can have the exact same pieces in the same exact booth setup, one with lights, one without lights. You're going to walk into the one with lights. So
are you powering it a certain way? Because I know some shows do not provide electricity, some do. Is it worth to pay for electricity, or do you have an option that is strictly?
Yeah. So I personally don't think it, I mean, I guess it's different for everyone and what you're doing. So for me, I have a Jackery battery pack. I know Becca has the Anchor battery pack. They're great. You can use those to power your lights. So like the one that I have, it's a true track lighting, just like if you were to install track lighting in your house, but has a wire attached to it. And the bulbs that I got for it, it'll last me 8 hours, all 6 lights on them. So it's long enough to go through a whole show. That being said, I can't like plug in my phone if I need to or things like that. So if you are doing functional stuff and you're like, I need at least because I would say for most functional ceramics, you need 2 sets of track lights to really illuminate all the sides and all the pedestals and displays. You're going to need a really big, heavy duty thing, which isn't it's an investment up front. It's, hundreds of dollars. Like my Jackery, I think it's the middle of the three. It was like 300, but the big boy, which is double, was like $800. And Anchor, Becca's like, yeah, I'll talk about it. But if you are for sure going to be making these things and going into shows and you want to do it right and see that difference, make that investment, because electric, like, you're spending $50-$75 a pop. It's hard to say for everyone, but in my case, my first year I did 50 shows. Last year I was down to 30 shows, and if you're paying $75 for even half of those shows, you could have bought it already. So make that save yourself.
$800 will pay for itself quickly.
Yeah.
I would advise, Deanna's already bought it, so it's fine, but I would advise against Jackery, mostly because you're paying a lot for the name for Jackery, because they like got their name up pretty quick. Anchor's a really good brand, so is EcoFlow. So if you do get something like that, just think about those. The reason I don't do Jackery is because they actually have less of a there is a scientific reason, not just because I don't like how they look. Um they have their cycles from battery up to battery down is a lot less than like EcoFlow and Anchor. So they only have like 2,500 cycles versus or it's like 1,500 cycles versus like 3,000. So not that.
And when you say cycles, that's like recharge, the amount of times you can recharge it before the battery itself is done.
Yeah, and like they're still good. There's just ones that I would maybe
for the same price
better. And I mean, like I said, I know plenty of people with Jackeries. They're fine, obviously, but yeah, that's what I'd say. Also, Deanna, I just bought you a rock tumbler and shipped it to your house. So, that's why I was
like, we're not waiting.
We're not fucking waiting for
It's coming.
Okay? You're gonna fucking do it, and so you might as well make a slab and cut it up into little triangles and create your grit now. So, just want to let you know.
So Deanna, the Jackery you're talking about, the portable power stations, I suspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But like in her case, you need to make sure that your portable power station, whatever you get, has the prongs, like to stick a regular plug in. Like
prong, yeah.
Like specifically my Anchor ones that I've been talking about don't have the prongs. They just have the USB-C plugs. I have another one, like I have an EcoFlow that does, but yeah.
It looks like even maybe the second model up even has a 3-prong, but
yeah.
And also on this topic, because you can find battery packs left and right online, don't cheap out. Make the investment, because I cheaped out originally and was like, yeah, I can use one of these little guys.
No.
Thing by the third charge wasn't holding charge past 3 hours. So luckily I was able to return it, but it just save yourself the headache.
The bulbs you use make a difference too. With how much power it's going to pull and how much wattage equivalent you're going to get.
But what I'm saying is, like, the actual battery pack itself that's charging all of this, like Becca was just talking about how many cycles you can use it, recharge it for the battery itself is no good. Those cheap ones, by, like I said, the third time it would recharge, but it wouldn't hold that charge for the time it was supposed to, because it was a cheap battery and the cycles were no good. So that's what happens when you buy the cheap batteries from.
Yeah. And also, if you're wondering like how many watts something uses, so like, sorry, I think there's a kid getting spanked. I don't think she's getting spanked, but
like, Becca's on a podcast. Quiet down.
she's definitely getting punished. Anyway, so how many watts you use? This took me a long time to figure out, but like if you buy a Jackery or if you buy this EcoFlow, right, it's going to say 567 watt hours, watt hour. Now, a short non-scientific way to figure out how many watts something uses per hour is if it's a 60-watt light bulb, that means it uses 60 watts per hour. So So, like, if you have a 60-watt light bulb, you can use that for how many hours in a 560-watt-hour battery. So that's just a good way to kind of like, it's like if you stuck a hairdryer in there, those are like 1500 watts. That's not gonna fucking do shit, right? So like you literally cannot use a hairdryer with one of
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
those power packs. So when you're looking at lights and you want to find something that's a little less power consuming, you're looking for something lower than 50 watts, like 20 watts. Right.
Yeah, like the bulbs, and again, I'll send links and you can share it, but the lights, the track lights, and I specifically like warm and soft lights. I hate blue lights. It does nothing for the colors and the look of ceramic stuff. But mine are 5-watt bulbs, and I use 6 of them. So to give you an idea, and like I said,
30-watt hours.
Exactly.
over 8 hours.
An hour.
Yeah.
So it uses 30 watts an hour.
Times 8. So.
Yeah.
Have you ever forgot to charge it when you get back for the night?
Oh yeah. Because I try and charge it when I get back and then put it right back in so that it's done. And there are times where I just came back like, oh my God, I have no inventory. Let me hop on this because I got to make 75 pairs the next 5 days, start to finish, and didn't do it and took off. At least I take off with my charger, but took off to a show, set up for a show, got to the hotel and was like, oh shit, I never charged that. And it's sitting in the booth. And so I didn't have lights my first day because I didn't charge my battery. So don't be like me.
I suspect there's also a draw to be like, well, I can get a solar thing that I can charge it with. Like,
Don't do that.
is it worth it to do something like that? Or is that just kind of a gimmick? Like, it's not really going to do as good as straight from the source to recharge it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very good question because then depending on where you live, I guess if you're in Florida, right, it's nice and sunny all the time, but not up here.
No, just no. Okay, you guys all live in houses. Charge it from the freaking wall. Figure it out. Okay, like okay, yeah. If you were sleeping in your car in a show, I guess maybe, but you'd have to charge it during the day, and like I guess you charge it at your show. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about solar, is that solar 100 watts is going to charge, like if you're getting a good solar panel, 100 watts you're going to pay $100. It's basically $1 a watt. Okay. And you're only getting 100 watts an hour at the highest level. And no solar panel gets you at the highest level. You're expecting 75% of that solar panel. So if you get a 100-watt solar panel, only getting 75 watts an hour. So,
and
that's with direct sunlight.
That's with direct sunlight.
Yeah.
So
those 5 or 6 hours to
not
fully
worth
charge.
it.
So spend that money instead of on the solar panel to be like, oh, I got like a lower watt hour battery. I'm just gonna get it sufficient with the solar. Just buy a bigger battery.
Just buy a bigger battery and charge it. You'll be fine. Like a 600-watt battery. Let's look. Like one of the Echo Flows. Oh my God.
The
No.
Jackery's 518 watt hour is $500 on here.
Okay, let's actually let's
That's
do
the
it.
Jackery Explorer 500 portable power station.
Okay,
it's
so
$34, 34% off as well. So
how many watts is there in a Jackery whatever?
518 watt hour capacity, 500-watt inverter is what it says.
Okay, great. So that is
1,000-watt
500-watt
surge.
hour capacity. This is how much is it?
It is $499.
Okay, great. So, oh, I want the bigger one. Come on, EchoFlow. So, to give you just a quick comparison of the different companies, the River 2 Pro power station is 768 watt hours. And it's got a bigger startup time and it's $419.
Okay.
So,
this one's on sale right now, so I gave you the full price. If it's on sale, it's $329, but
okay, it's
that's not every day. Yeah, full price $500.
How much was it on sale?
$329.
$329. Full price, this one is $599. I don't think that comes with anything, but like that's the one I have, and 768 watts would last you like a fucking year.
Yeah. Last you a full day at the show running 2 full track lights and then still being able to, like, if you need to plug in your point of sales or your phone to recharge it or whatever, you would still have the capacity to do that versus the Jackery being at 500 would be eaten up by the 2 lights alone.
Hi, everybody. I am interrupting one more time because we want to talk to you about Speedball and what is in store for Speedball at NCECA. Not only is LNL going to be at NCECA, but so is Speedball, and we love both of them so very much. So we wanted to let you know that Speedball might have some new colors of their mid-fire glazes, which means that, you know, there's new colors. And somebody said there might be 6. You know, can't confirm. But you should definitely check it out and come over to the booth. When you are in Sika, Ryan and I will both be demoing. Actually, I will be a featured artist, so that's pretty exciting. And not only will they have new colors for the mid-fire glazes, but they will have the pink and the purple and the blue bats, or the teal bats, and they will have the pink and the purple boss bases. So lots of pink and purple going on this season, which is really excited. They did not have those new colored bats last year at NCECA. So this is the first NCECA that you can pick one up at their booth. So exciting. If you want to look at any of the new things that they have in their stock, you can. It's at speedballart.com. SPEEDBALL, Speedball. Okay, bye. Yeah, like the River 3 that is a portable power station, I think that you can add things to it. This one, like you could boost it up to 600 watts, is only $179. So I would go with EcoFlow personally. It's just cheaper for what you get, but also, you know, it depends on what you want. Like the Jackery has a handle, this one doesn't.
I mean, a lot, you know, it depends on your budget too. Like, how far along in your journey are you? You know, how committed are you to doing this for the next 10 to 20 years? Because if you're not, then and you're only doing 5 or 10 shows a year and you only need electricity, because half of them, I mean, even I use my lights indoors or outdoors. I should say that as well. Like that,
Yeah.
it still makes a difference. But if you're just like, yeah, I'm only doing a handful of shows a year and it's kind of part-time and I sell online, then, you know, don't spend $800. But if you are committed to doing this, then make the investment. Don't spend $5 a show for lighting. It'll
You know
go.
what I was using last year? I had I have a similar, like, I got the
Well, I found it. I found the one that was comparable. I was trying to find the one that was comparable. The River 2 Max is 500. I think it's 500 watts. Good God, where is all the fucking shit? I think it's like 500 watts and it's $349 on sale.
Okay.
So
Similar price, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So I got the references from Deanna for the I don't know, the poles and stuff to hang the track lighting from, and then I got it wired and everything. I think I got a similar number of bulbs too. But I have one of those power inverter because I got a ton of Ryobi stuff, so I was like, I got all these batteries. Why don't I just get the power inverter? I freaking ran through those batteries. That they each lasted like 3 hours. So I had like a bag of batteries, but I was swapping those things like every 3 hours. It was a lot.
Are you gonna get one?
So I might need to get one of those, but I'm also like, there's technically a plug right behind my booth, but I didn't pay for it. So I was like, I mean, I can't guarantee I'm gonna have a booth that close and I could kind of get their power, but
Hey, if you get one, get the EcoFlow, but also, I mean, you could get the Jackery too, but also make sure you get my link.
your referral link.
Yeah.
Is the EcoFlow the one that you had issues with, the power bank, or is that a different brand? Is that your like holy shit charger too? Your power
No,
bank?
my holy shit charger is a Blue Yeti, and that was just because it was cheap. No, this one's I've never had an issue with it, and their customer service is really good. I thought I had an issue with it, but it turned out to be a user error. I
Okay.
thought that there was an issue with the car charger part. It wasn't like charging, but it's actually just car chargers are garbage. So that was it.
Yeah, I don't currently use lighting in my booth, but I can see the draw. I'm kind of wondering how much more time would be needed to set up for that. Because right now I only use those lights for that indoor show for the Kentucky Crafted Market.
Hmm.
But that was also because I don't have a tent, and I was like, I kind of like I heard they were saying the lighting was kind of crappy, so they recommended
Lighting really helps.
you have your own.
Even in your outdoor shows, like I can't remember if you were under a tree at 4th Street, but like, it can be a sunny, bright day,
Yeah.
full sun,
A
best
lot.
90 degrees. But if you're shaded by a building casting a shadow underneath a
Hmm.
tree, like it makes a difference.
I think sometimes at some shows with having the tables all the way to the edge of the booth almost, that helps, but I
Oh
can
yeah.
see the benefit if you're completely under the booth the whole
Mhm.
Yeah, but
time.
if you're doing jewelry, you can't do that because like all your jewelry will fly away.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing. Like ceramics is one thing versus jewelry is another. Like if we're talking straight jewelry, you have to have walls or else you're fucked.
Wait, you're just saying you
Yeah,
can't have a table between you and the customer and just put it near the front of the booth so they don't really have to walk in?
because the wind will blow it away, or if it rains, everything gets rained on at the front. And so, like, you will see artists, like jewelry artists, who do have just a table across the front, maybe 2 feet inside the booth, but they all have cases, right? Then everything's
Mhm.
case. But if you're
That's
talking
true.
cards, the cards will fly, and that's why I have
Okay.
Yeah.
elastic
So
bands.
then do you always have tent walls up?
I always have my back wall up. I usually have two walls up for my L. Mainly, and the L is less about the wind for me, and it's more about having that solid background. So when
Hmm.
someone's walking by, they can actually see the work, and then you're not getting distracted by whatever's next to me. It's up
Because
against
it's so
that white background,
small.
so they can see it. Yeah, from afar, and be like, "Oh, I want to go take a look," because I have not invested in banners, which is a really common, helpful marketing
Hmm.
tool for jewelry, is making banners, just blown up pictures of your work that you hang, whether it's across the back wall or the side walls, so people can get an idea of what your work looks like and what you're selling from afar. Because,
That's just
I mean, depending on the show, when it's a crowd of people and it takes a lot of effort for someone to part the Red Sea to get to your booth, having that picture can make them want to come do it, or they're like, it's too much effort to even figure out what it looks like. I'm going to keep going.
I
Yeah.
see somewhere the banners are kind of on the outside edge of the booth, or maybe it's in the front corner, so it's visible
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all part of it. I mean, for me, my draw is my sign. Everyone's like, what's Glazed and Confused? I got to come see. What is this?
Hmm.
Yeah.
No.
I would guess the height of the table is also important to make sure it's accessible
Yes.
and they don't have to lean down far to.
I think it's 36, 38 inches, something like that is the tabletop height you want to be at. So we use a standard folding table and then risers, which make it, I think mine's 8 inches taller because it's full.
Yeah, it is.
So, but yeah, just plastic furniture risers under the table legs to bring it up to the right height.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want people to bend over. They shouldn't have to bend over. I mean, and honestly, the same is true for ceramic work too. Like the closer you can have it to eye level and then go up from there. Because you guys have talked about it on the podcast in the past. Like if it's on your bottom 2 shelves on the shelf, they're not selling. It's where you put the stuff that's not moving, just to make it look full, but no one's buying from it. So even if you're doing ceramic stuff, definitely get some risers.
And make sure your risers don't putting ceramic stuff on risers is one thing, but when you're putting jewelry on risers, you're using a lot less weight. So keep that in mind. So like maybe bring wood to put under your risers if you're on grass. I've had tables literally fall because the riser was like not stable enough. So
I mean, I would guess the table's not really that heavy
Oh,
with
it's not.
jewelry on it. So
Becca, do you remember the farmer's market? No. So
I
we were next to each other. It was a really windy day, and I was I don't know, late trying to set up next to Becca. And because I have tablecloths on mine too, they're just a sale. And even with the walls up, it was still so windy. And the wind came and it just blew my whole table off the risers. It like into
shit.
while I was trying to set up, and I was just like, and then something else happened. I was like, all right, Becca, I'm not doing this today. I'll see you next week. And just packed up and left. I was like, this can't do this. This is too much. Because at that time you had jewelry, but you had at the market, you were doing your cups and bowls and stuff. So she had some weight, and I was just like, this is not happening.
Dude, I did a show last year in Utah, and it was on.
You said it was very windy.
It was on grass, and it was also a windy day, and I shit you not, my table fell over twice in the show. I was like, you know what? I'm fucking over this. I'm just over it. So
yeah, weight your tables down. The little arms underneath. Get yourself some sandbags. Wait, that was originally why I bought my second set of weights, was to weight my tables down.
Yeah.
And since then, I just use them as extra. But
bricks on the back of your like.
Mm-hmm. That's what I ended up using to weight. I haven't talked about that. The tables. I use just regular old paper bricks that you get for 60 cents a piece or whatever. I've got 4 bricks per table minimum for weight, because even though I've got display pieces, the display pieces are wood. They don't weigh a whole lot, but that brick is what gives me the weight on my table.
Yeah, you can like put the brick on top of the display in the back, and that'll hold it down so it doesn't tip over. And you can also put a clear elastic in front of the cards so they don't fly away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do some people have like on the wall? Because I feel like they have like screens that you can hang on the wall. Do people do that with jewelry sometimes?
Yeah.
So it's not going to move, or it doesn't topple?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're doing. Like, I have a jewelry friend that does glass jewelry and does lots of shows, and she's got pro panels, and she has a Velcro that she puts on the back spallet of her cards and just Velcros all of her stuff to the walls, so they're not going to fly away or go anywhere. There's another person called Art Farm. That's actually the recycled jewelry I'm wearing, and they're panels that they built of some sort, and they have little picture frames, and they pin. It's kind of like a padded piece inside the frame, and they pin all their cards into the picture frame, so it looks more like a gallery, because the frame is framing like 6 earrings on the wall. And then they have like a booth because they have like bracelets and rings too. But there's so many different ways to do it. It all kind of goes back to how much effort you want to put into it, or how committed are you to it, and are you just doing it for fun and trying it out, or is this what you love and what you want to do? So
I suspect there's also a big draw for people that already make a lot of stuff, that they're just like, oh, I can just make jewelry. Like, there's a market for jewelry. Why don't I just make a few things? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is there like an ignorance to that thought, that it's just like, I can just do that, it's easy? Like, everybody can make jewelry. It's just smaller versions than what I make. So
yeah,
like,
there is, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because that's how you learn, right? Like, you have to make it and try it and mess it up and learn from your mistakes. Like, yeah, you can talk to people like Becca and myself who have made all the mistakes and learn from us, but there's still so much you're just going to learn. Yeah, there's just so much you're going to learn by doing that no one can tell you. And you will make, like, when I'll have to make a post and I'll tag you guys in it, because I've been talking with Brandon about how I need to do a like where you started, where you're at now for my booth setup. Because when I first, even here in Indiana, like I had tried it a couple times when I lived in Florida, but when I first was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, but I hadn't left my job yet, I had gotten an art easel and put like a masonite board and put some nails on the board and hung my earrings on cards on the board, and the easel flew away. And I had my ceramic sculptures at the time too, and that was when I decided to go more full tilt into the jewelry and not my sculptures. But learn, like, even though I knew I had to weight stuff down, I still hadn't been able to figure out how to make the display part of it work, and you just have to try and figure it out.
Is there a secret to photographing it?
Oh my god.
Ceramic jewelry is probably ceramic jewelry,
because I suspect people that want to try it are gonna be like, I can just sell this online, it's easy, it's jewelry, it ships easily. Like,
it is like the epitome of the hardest thing to photograph, because jewelry is incredibly hard shiny metal is incredibly hard. And as you know, ceramic glazed surfaces are hard. So it's like the trifecta of the most difficult things to fucking photograph.
Did you say it's tiny too, or no?
Yeah, well, yeah, jewelry being small, having not necessarily a macro lens, but if you're using your phone camera, you can only get so close before it won't focus. So then you have to zoom in, and then the image quality is terrible because you've zoomed in too far. So when I photograph my stuff by a window, reflected natural light, because I have light boxes. I don't use them. Just use natural light from the window, not direct lighting. That way you don't have all the hot spots and all the shines. And I use my phone. I could have a greater camera, but I just use my phone, and then I Photoshop in the gradient backgrounds because that's what I do for show applications. And then as far as my website goes, like online selling, having a white background, blah, 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 is ideal for selling online. I don't have time to Photoshop all those images because I'm posting well over 100 pieces on our website. It's just the gray background. You can see my fishing wire. I don't care. It is what it is. You like it or you don't. And when you get it, it's going to look better than it did in the photo. And that's all I can say.
For flat light, is a flat lay fine too, or is that hard as well?
Any kind of like direct lighting is a nightmare. So it's all indirect lighting, natural lighting, because of all the hot spots for the ceramic and being so small. So same time of day, between 2 and 4.
I suspect you're also in tough competition with other jewelers when you're applying to shows. So like, if you go all the way in jewelry, you're in a tight spot.
I'm in the spot of I need to pay a photographer to take photographs because, like I was saying, I want to make these banners that can be hung up for marketing and drawing people in. We talked about the competitiveness of it, but my phone is good enough. Like you can blow it up, it won't look awful, but it will be apparent when it's put next to someone who has paid a photographer with a quality camera to take the picture and edit it appropriately and isn't just someone who's okay doing it. It makes a difference. So, and it not every photographer specializes in product photography. You have people that do landscape and portrait and product, and there's a reason for that. Last year I had paid to have someone photograph my work for a view book, and that went atrociously. The image they ended up using that I paid for them to put in the book was far worse than what I have made for myself to even apply to shows with. And the people who I was working with, they're great. They're fixing it. They gave me a credit for this year. Take 2 trying again, but it was really disheartening when that was what was out in the world representing my work. So do your research on your photographers if you're going to use a photographer. And in that vein, Facebook groups, I think it's Jury Image Review or something like that. Larry Berman is who runs it, and he's a photographer, and you can pay him. You can pay to mail off your work. He will photograph it, return the work to you with edited photographs, and he's great. He's been doing it a long time. How long has this been? I'm hungry.
I don't know what time we started, but we're right at it.
I literally said at the beginning of this, okay, we're not going to go over 2 hours.
You said 4 hours. You said, I don't want this to be 4 hours.
Well, I meant
that was a high bar.
I mean, have you met us, Becca? All the squirrels and shiny spoons.
You didn't even ask any questions at the beginning, and then you're like power shooting questions. Like, now that Ryan's intrigued, we've got all the questions.
I just know that it's way more complex than it's like I know people like I made jewelry at one point in college, and I was like, oh, these are whatever. But you're so intricate. I just made a few, and like I freaking put them in the wood kiln. Like that's how.
Oh my God, the ones that you gave to
I think Rachel might have a pair. She might have thrown them away.
You're gonna have to post these. You're gonna find
horrible.
Them.
I did like a spirally one that like I rolled a coil around a paintbrush or something. Looks like a little curly Q.
Yeah.
I'm not a jeweler. I just made them for fun.
It is exactly what you think it would look like as a 22-year-old boy making it. It's exactly what you think.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
how
think
you
it
learn.
met the weight requirement.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you have any last words before or questions? I gotta go eat.
What was that maker? What'd you call the maker of the moment? Was that what that was?
Oh, we didn't do
We
that.
forgot to do that. Let's end with that.
Hmm.
All right, maker of the moment, Kara Lovell Ceramics. Someone I'm in a local Potters Guild with here in town, and she's doing great things. She lives in Terre Haute, but she's awesome and has been sharing her work more recently. She's been like, "Hey, I'm going to show you my work each day until I reach, 10,000 followers or whatever it is." And but she's great. Love talking with her about different shows, what she has or hasn't done. We bounce ideas off of each other all the time. So if you're not following her, go follow her.
Kara Lavelle,
Yep. So
Kara. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, KARALOVELL Ceramics. That's her Instagram handle. So check her out.
And
All
I'm
right.
sharing her thing right now.
She does not make jewelry that I know of.
She does not know. She makes functional, mainly highly decorative, like underglazing, high contrast, I would say, work. That's all wheel thrown functional stuff. And then like kind of bright, colorful glazes for the inside and more of that underglazing detail on the outside.
Nice. My maker of the moment's
Yeah,
actually going to be somebody who does make some wearable things. She's actually local to me. It is Charity Russ Jordan. Her Instagram is crj.artwork.
Got it.
She went to NKU and she makes some pendants, but also she's mainly a hand builder, so she's got a lot of good textures and character to her work. And she makes kind of like little altars and little kind of meditation altar things. And
You said CHJ?
crj.artwork.
CRJ, okay.
I think the cat has been stuck in here this whole time.
Your cat?
No, Jen's cat. What was it? It's CRJ.
crj.artwork.
Okay, it is so hot in here. Oh my God. I've been to like I feel like they've got the heat on or something. It's like 75 degrees in California right now. Like I'm dying. Okay. My maker of the moment is Lori Elling, and hers is Lori LORI.ELLING.ceramics. And her stuff is so like it's so cool. It's like expressive and like different and chunky and colorful.
It's very retro too.
Yeah.
Very mid-century. Yeah. It's fun. Love it. Nice.
All
Where,
right. And Becca
where
just shared those.
I share them while we're on the thing so I don't
Yeah.
forget.
And they'll be in our highlights. So if you hear this, it's in our Instagram highlight
Yeah.
on Wheel Talk. So
Boom. I don't think I highlighted the last one I did, but I'll go do that now. There we go. Perfect. They're all highlighted. Huzzah. Maybe I'll do a maker of the moment.
post, and then it lives each week that you do it.
Like at the end of the month, I can do all the maker of the moments. Yeah. Okay. Well, fantastic. I'm so glad you came on. I feel like people are gonna have to listen to this twice so that they get the information.
For sure. It's been fun.
What is your Instagram?
Oh, yeah. Glazed Confused Creations on Instagram. Follow along. Have fun.
Yep.
Can they ask you questions?
Oh yeah, by all
Or are
means.
you just gonna be like, buy my workshop?
No, they can ask questions. It's fine. But yes, I do recommend the workshop goes into even greater detail. Even though we covered an astronomical amount of stuff, the workshop still covers more. You'd be amazed. So
Did you give them like a sheet or something with it so they
Yep.
knew all the details of where to find specific
Yep.
things and gauges and all that stuff?
Yeah, links for all the things that I talk about are all included with that workshop too. So.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for the time.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Have a good night, you guys.
Yeah, you too. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Oh, wait. I have to do the thing.
You have to stop it.
Oh my God. How do I stop it? There we go.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Wheel Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.